Start the morning combat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
Come to us, doing what we love. But it's time to bang. Oh, yeah. Goodness gracious. Ass is bodacious. Hey, we're back from vacation. It's morning combat. We are here to party. We are here to bang. Monday, April 21st, 2025. I'm the co-hostess with the mostest, your boy with that BBC, with that BDE, Brian Campbell. That is Luke Thomas from the nation's capital. We have a hell of a show for you today, live and direct from Metal Arc Studios here in the NYC. Thank you to everybody listening in your ear hole, watching on YouTube, or maybe watching on the DraftKings Network. And a reminder that today's episode of Morning Combat is brought to you by DraftKings. And with DraftKings, the crown is yours. LT, fresh off the bird from the Crescent City.
That's right.
You feeling refreshed? You feeling ready to bring it today?
I am not feeling refreshed because I got up at 2:50 this morning.
Oh, I'm still on West Coast time. I'm effed up. I'm effed up big time.
Yeah, but New Orleans is a great place.
Oh, wow.
It is an amazing place. How was your vacation?
It was really nice. San Diego is, except for the 6.2 earthquake that my family and I got indoctrinated into, it was such a fantastic. Joshua Tree National Park. What a time to be alive.
Joshua Tree National Park is a treat.
So many of my favorite musicians have died of morphine overdoses there. It's just it's such a great time. But very happy.
I mean, if you're going to die of a morphine overdose.
It's a beautiful place. I did drive through 29 Palms and did see the sign for your beloved Marine base.
Okay, am I right about that city? Or city, that side of the road?
Yeah. Yes.
Horror town?
Yes.
I couldn't believe, dude, motherfuckers live there. I mean, I'm not talking about the Marine Corps base, the little village outside of it. Bro, it's the land that time forgot.
It definitely is. I forgot about it already. But I am fired up to come back. You know what I did because I can't sleep because I'm on West Coast time? Last night, I watched 7 consecutive Morning Combat documentaries into this morning. And I was reliving the good old days. We used to be fun.
Yeah.
We used to be fat. We used to be like high on the hog. I mean, we had a Showtime budget.
Yep.
We used to be a different show. I think we could be that show again one day.
It is possible.
Because even though we always we need a studio, we need the RSD, we need the... It's
true, yeah.
It's still just you and me.
Yeah. That's how, I mean, those things are nice. It's nice to have them, but we don't need them necessarily.
We don't need them. We do have a fantastic show for you today as we look ahead. Only, 68 days out from IFW UFC 317.
I cannot believe that.
Biggest card of the summer. Who the hell is going to main event that? We're going to debate that, look at the latest news, and get into that. We got some PFL talk. We are going to look at Jake Paul's recent announcement of his new opponent, and check out some other announcements, DM some donks. Have you seen this shit to follow? Finally, we're back together, but I do want to thank the great Chuck Mindenhall, who filled in a week ago admirably. I was watching that from vacation, you and him, recap UFC 316. Fun and games. It was good.
It was a good episode. People wrote me saying it was a much more mellow episode. Like it was, we took our time. And I was like, well, we also didn't have to do Have You Seen This shit? So we cut that part out.
You didn't have me screwing things up with shitty humor. We do have a fantastic third member of our team. He's the host of the Main Card Minute podcast, and he's here by way of a horned-up Australian man's testy sack. Hey, it's Long Island Luke Nocita in the house. Lukey, how are you, bro?
I'm good. Now he's horned up, though? I mean,
Well, you wouldn't have been here if he wasn't horned up.
Right,
like true or false, right?
I mean,
we're
true or false,
evolving.
your dad ejaculated in your mom, and that's how you got it.
Okay.
right.
Now
And on
that's
that note,
too
I'm
far.
out.
Quickly, Long Island Luke. I want to thank you for filling in for me last week when it was Lukamania.
It was.
During
Luke
WrestleMania
squared,
week,
yeah.
what a star turn for one Nocita here. Luke,
Can you believe it?
How is it? How did it feel to take my seat?
It felt good, man. It felt right. It was good. Dennis from Submission Radio reached out, so shout out to him.
Oh, I love that guy.
Hey!
Yeah.
Gave me some props. So
Now,
it was a good time.
how bad was it having to listen to Luke talk about toe spacers for an hour?
It
For an
felt
hour.
like 3 hours.
Oh.
I mean, shut the fuck up. You two boners. I got a sausage and a helmet here.
Yeah, I'm
as
from-
Patty the Batty would say.
From the island of Bon Air. Thank
Two
you very
mushrooms.
much.
Two mushrooms.
Thank you to all of you for staying with MK always, okay? Always. And we're back. We're ready to go. Shout out to the guys in the back. How about Ken, right? We love Ken.
Is he sober?
I don't... Love it.
That means
love
he's
it.
ready. That
Love
means he's
it.
ready.
Quickly on Norlands, Luke.
Yeah.
Nolans, excuse me.
Nolans.
Did you get some beignets for Tukes?
We did. We went to Cafe Du Monde. We went to the big one, the nice one.
It's overrated, admit it.
I didn't love it, but you know what? Tell you what, you take a 5-year-old to Cafe Du Monde.
Oh yeah, that powdered sugar, baby.
Well, it's not just the powdered sugar. They put mountains of powdered sugar to the point where my daughter was in her hair to the bottom of her shoes, covered in it. And
she looked like McGregor.
I was like, Did you win at UFC 205?
Are you running for Irish president, honey? What's
I
going
saw
on?
you on Tucker.
Yeah.
No, she loved the experience because just to have the plate of empty beignets and there's still like
The
mounds
coffee
of
from
sugar.
Dumont is good though.
Coffee was super,
Oh, really?
super
All
mid,
right, all right.
super
well,
mid.
we like different things in
But
life.
you know, she loved it, and then obviously we had seen recently, even long before that, we refreshed on Princess and the Frog.
Yes.
And you see, like, you know, what's the main church there? St. Louis Cathedral,
I don't know the name, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
right in Jackson Square.
Yeah.
And she was blown away. Like, saw the riverboat, like everything that she had seen in the movie. Like, obviously they did a pretty good job representing New Orleans, and it was just kind of one of those moments where she was able to connect all the dots. So she had a brilliant time.
Well, just this morning at Penn Station, I saw 2 gentlemen without homes washing their ball bag at
Yeah.
the sink.
Yeah.
Did you have any experiences like that in that city?
No. I will say this: we talked about off air. I was surprised at the number of homeless in New Orleans. They are not hidden. There's a lot of them there.
Yeah.
But also people in New Orleans, I've noticed this. Everywhere you go in the city, nice places, bad places, uptown places, downtown places. Dude, the amount of fried chicken that's on sale in New Orleans, citywide, it's insane.
You doing a Tony Hinchcliffe bit? What are you doing?
No. I'm not making a racial joke, you fucking jackass.
I did your bit on you.
Yeah,
right there,
no. I mean, like, I just everywhere you go, it was like I thought everywhere you go would be gumbo. Everywhere you go would be, no, brother. They love Pojo Frito up in that town.
That's what
yes,
I'm
they do.
talking
And by the
about.
way, they make it pretty fucking good there too.
I did love the food there in New Orleans. Love the food.
Can I say this? Can I say
San
this?
Diego's food, top
San Diego's
notch.
good?
Oh, ho, 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 ho.
I haven't been to San Diego in 30 plus years.
Want to touch the hiney,
Dude,
right?
let me say this. I had a bunch of cocktails because I was just trying them out.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Yeah.
Can I say this? Most of them were real mid. Real mid.
Let me guess. You ordered a $20 cocktail, took a half sip, said this one sucks, ordered another one instantly. That's your move. That's your
No.
fucking move,
No,
dude.
if it's 20, I don't do it. If it's 10, I might do it though. I'll say this: best place I ate. I'll give him a shout out. Maypop. You ever heard of this?
No.
Maypop in New Orleans. I don't know what you would call the cuisine. I guess it's typical New Orleans cuisine. Dude, the food was fucking ridiculous. Also very expensive,
That
but
shit
it was
ridiculous.
good. Hey, you know what? This one goes out to dude.
Dude.
This one goes out to
Dude, where's
dude.
my Coke? Yeah.
I
there you
saw
go.
one of these on the ground in New Orleans covered in piss and vomit. It said bro on it, and I was like, yep.
Quickly, RIP to the Pope, Luke, the Latin American hero. I know that hit big in your family. 12 hours after shaking JD Vance's hand.
Yeah, I'm not saying nothing.
That's
just saying.
wild. But
I'm just saying.
Shout out to everybody mourning that, of course.
All the Catholics of the world.
It might be time though to get into the show.
Let's do it.
As you crack open that can, all right, that can of whoop ass. Oh yeah, by the way, Dana White got booed to shit at WrestleMania.
You know what? I want
the
to
other
challenge
night.
that for a little bit.
Well,
'cause
challenge what?
I had read that it was he got booed, and then I saw a bunch of people being like he didn't get booed, and
Oh, he
I
got booed.
rewatched the broadcast. So there were 2 times.
You watched wrestling?
No, just the clips of him being, and now Dana White, like he's being introduced on the broadcast. On the first clip, I didn't really hear it. Second clip, I hear it. I definitely hear it, but it sounded a little more mixed. Booed to shit doesn't sound right to me.
He did voice the intro, which was interesting to the
didn't see
first
that.
night of WrestleMania.
I didn't see that.
And then the second night of WrestleMania got ruined by Dwayne Johnson not even being there, but that's another topic for people that care about that. Hey, let's get into our show, and it's topic number 1 right about right now. Hey, UFC 317, remember that? That's International Fight Week, June 28th in Las Vegas, the biggest card of the year. But we are 68 days away from that, and we don't have a main event. So, after Kevin Ioli's report on Sunday that an injury to middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis will keep him from a potential IFW headlining role against Khamzat Chimaev, you also have, oh, by the way, lightweight champion Islam Makhachev saying under no circumstances will he grant a title defense to Ilia Topuria. Conor McGregor's on drugs. Who knows about Jones versus Aspinall? So, Luke, UFC appears to be running out of time to make the type of main event that makes IFW matter. Remember, it's Hall of Fame week. It's so many things going on with that fan fest. Luke, as things stand right now, what is the promotion's best remaining option in light of the injury, in light of the uncertainty going on for June 28th, UFC 317?
They still have a couple of hands to play. They still have, or I should say, a couple of cards they could play, a couple of hands, whatever the proper metaphor is.
Long Island, I already did it, Long Island. Thank you.
Everything okay?
Yeah, I already did that read earlier.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there's still a few hands that could be played here. And I understand the fan panic. In fact, I believe that they had telegraphed. Now, I was on vacation, so I missed some of this. I believe that they had telegraphed they were going to announce some things about UFC 317 during the middle of the week. And then the middle of the week came and went, and we didn't get an answer to this.
Dana also telegraphed late last year when he said there'd be a fight that we wouldn't believe that would be announced this year.
Yeah, and we don't appear to be any closer to that. So what I want to say is I understand that there is deep concern about what kind of main event we're actually going to get. But for an exercise, if I may, I'd like to review some previous International Fight Week main events and see if we can figure out what might be a roadmap for the future.
Are you trying to say, without saying that calling it the biggest fight card of the year and expecting some blockbuster might not be a reality?
What I can say is, if you look at the history of International Fight Weeks, they do typically try to book a big fight with a big star, and if possible, one in some kind of rivalry. Now, that's not always possible, but you did get, I think, Silvason in 2 was one of these such cases in previous years. That would be big star and Anderson Silva, title fight, rivalry, rematch, perfect headlining kind of thing. However, what you commonly get is something where you get a little bit of half of that, where you get one really big name star in a title fight, but the dance partner may not necessarily blow you away. So let me give you an example. The last one we were at together, UFC 276, that was Izzy versus Jared Cannonier. Now, that also had Volk versus Max 3 on it, so it had some supporting cast, but by itself, Izzy versus Cannonier was not necessarily something that was going to blow you away. In a similar vein, UFC 239, John Jones versus Thiago Santos. Again, somewhat hotly anticipated, John Jones, big name, but not the biggest.
What was that co-main?
I don't remember who the co-main was exactly for that one. You could pick some other ones. You can go down the list. Chris Weidman versus Lyoto Machida. That was somewhat anticipated because you had a former champion Machida dropping down. He had won a couple to get this spot. It served a useful purpose.
That's good to very good, right? Not great.
Yes, that's good to very good.
It ain't Conor Poirier too.
No, it's not even close. In fact, the biggest ones would be, as I mentioned, Silvason in 2, Silvason in 1, by the way. Silva Weidman.
Okay.
Stipe Miocic Cormier was a big one as well.
Right.
And then, of course, Conor versus Chad Mendes would be the biggest of them all.
And then, John versus DC 2 would have been. So, by the way, would have been Nate versus Conor 2, which was originally scheduled for UFC IFW 200.
Also, Cruz versus Faber, UFC 132. And you even got Whitaker versus Romero, UFC 213. What I'm trying to tell folks is what you should be looking for, what I think makes the most sense about who's available, pick a big name star, somebody that is on the pound for pound list, somebody that's a champion, and they're probably going to be making a routine title defense. Because honestly, who else is really left at this point? Let's go down the list, BC. Could they make, for International Fight Week, at least in terms of timing, John Jones versus Tom Aspinall? They could, but it doesn't seem like that's in the cards for that part of the year. Probably going to be New York, right?
Probably.
Because they have to divide their calendar in that way. So that's out. Conor is on Tucker Carlson. I mean, I don't even know what the fuck to even say about something like that. So you've got Islam, you've got Ilya, but...
You can stop the sentence right there.
So...
You've got Islam, you've got Ilya.
But they're not going to make that.
What the fuck are we doing here? That is a stop traffic superstar fight, number 1 versus 2 pound for pound, 2 champions, although obviously Ilya had to give up his belt to move up. Like, what are we doing here? Why is that not automatically the fight? You could say, well, because Islam doesn't want it. So let's show, if you don't mind, Long Island Luke. First, I want to hear Topuria on Rogan talking about this fight. Let's watch this.
I would like to fight with Islam.
But if they don't give you that fight, if they give you like a number 1 contender fight, when would you like to fight next?
I wouldn't fight for a number 1 contender
really?
fight.
It's the most marketable fight, right?
I don't care if Islam decides that he doesn't want to fight me. I don't care. I said, till you're going to have to fight me. Okay? You say that you are the world champion, you're going to keep dominating the division, all that. I'm here. You can't keep avoiding me all the time.
So you would just sit on the sidelines rather than fight someone else?
I don't think that they're going to do that. I get the promise that I would fight for the title in my next fight.
Mm-hmm.
So how much time you will stop me and from the fighting? And I prove that I deserve that shot. Once I pass him, I get the title, and you put me against Party.
So he was promised a title shot. It feels like Islam is waiting to see the results of JDM versus Bilal to see if he's going to move up in weight. We also have a deleted tweet response from Islam, if you can show that, where Topuria said, Khabib knows I'm the one to take the belt from Islam. Only reason he doesn't want Islam to fight me. That was in response to some comments that Khabib gave in an interview. Then Makhachev briefly posted, don't mention my name or my coach until you've beaten a top 5 opponent in my division. So, Luke, I understand I guess you could say the politics in play right here. A lot of people are saying, hey, Islam, didn't you tell Merab that he had to fight Umar because it was the number 1 next in line, and that's what you do in this game? I understand you can make the argument that Ilya is coming from another division, but what argument are we making here? If you want the summer attraction to be a Stipe versus DC, a John versus DC, taking 2 of your best brands that isn't gimmick related, it is like if you brought in Conor, like they tried to do with Chandler last year, and Turkana pulled out, that's a gimmick fight, but it still sells, it matters. Ilya versus Islam is not a gimmick fight. It's the 2 best damn fighters in the world that happen to be in the same division at the same time. Put the 2 brands together. This is a stop traffic main event. We criticize UFC for charging exorbitant ticket prices and bragging about the live gate records that they're setting. This is the fight you charge that much. You should put it in Allegiant, and people will come, and they will come in masses and pay the money to see your 2 best fighters in your promotion fighting each other. What am I missing?
Okay, let's game this out. If they make this fight, let's say JDM wins at 315 and Islam wants to go up, but now you've already booked him for whatever you call it, International Fight Week. We have to think about this. Who does JDM defend against and when?
If Ian Gary beats Carlos Pratis, that's not a bad choice.
Okay, and I guess whenever they go back to when Long Island Luke, do you know when the UFC is going back to Australia?
I don't know. They usually go like November.
Yeah.
Did you ask him that because of his dad's horniness?
Because he's a hardcore fan, and also his dad's got a ball bag that comes from there.
That's true.
So, okay. The point I'm trying to make is...
But wait, I wanted to say Shavkat. JDM Shavkat.
Welterweight's so crowded that there's multiple names that can fight JDM, so I think the argument's out of there.
Okay, but they're probably going to... If JDM wins, they're going to want to save him for that Australia rotation. I'm guessing. Sure. Something like that.
There's also rumors Buckley's going to fight Usman, by the way.
Okay. But I'm just saying you have to figure that part out. So now, if that happens, do you do an immediate rematch no matter the result?
Of JDM versus
No. Of Islam and Topuria.
I mean, I don't know. Immediate rematch. Let's just get one on the books. What are we doing now?
This is the point about doing these fights is you have to consider the implications. If in other words, at 170, if Bilal Muhammad loses, even if it's like a really fucked up decision, you just have to imagine the UFC would probably be like, oh, tough. Okay, let's just move on to the next one. But if Islam loses, it's the pound for pound number 1 guy in the sport. There are going to be conversations about what you do with him in the event that he loses, even if he gets fucking stretched.
Bonus, let's do a rematch if it's close or if it's a shocking development.
So now that leaves a question of like, what do you do with Gaethje? The UFC might want to honor what he's done for them by gifting him some kind of and I'm saying gifting like, he's in position for it, but assigning him a title fight. The point I'm trying to make is if you want to pull the ripcord on this to make this fight, you're saying you have to make the maximally biggest fight. And what I think the UFC wants to do is probably that if they can, but they're mostly trying to balance. People make this mistake. And I'm not, this is going to sound like it's some kind of like unfair criticism of UFC. I'm honestly not trying to do it that way. I really am not. I'm just trying to get them to look at it. Do they want to make events? Of course they do. But they also want to make calendars.
Sure.
And when you're making calendars, robbing Peter to pay Paul carries risk and consequences for what could happen down the line. Now, listen, if Bilal goes in there and smokes JDM, it kind of narrows Islam's options in a major way. But if he gets fucked up at 315, it changes the equation dramatically at that point, especially for what Islam wants to do in his career. And by the way, if he goes in there and wastes Ilya and Topuria, and JDM was available at 170, you have to think about how this plays out for the 2025 calendar year. I'm not saying that's not a reason to not make it.
Are you saying that if Islam were to lose to Ilya, it would ruin the idea of him moving up and fighting for the title right away? That's
completely destroys it. If you can't beat a guy moving up from 45, why are we wasting our time with anybody at 70?
But at least there's enough names at 70 and marketable, sexy names, I think, where you can keep that title picture alive. It's not like you're killing the division. I'm wondering if, and the announced fights already, by the way, for UFC 317, June 28th, Pantoja is going to defend against Kai Kara France, the flyweight belt. Brandon Royval against Manel Kopp, very good fight in the flyweight division. And then we're going to get a tour of Tafa with Justin against Jahanada Denise. I butchered that name, sorry.
Johnson.
Whatever. But the point here is...
damn, I don't give a fuck.
Even if you didn't want to run Ilya directly into Islam, but again, it's like, if you can't give us John and Aspinall in a reasonable amount of time and you can't give us Conor McGregor, and I get why, like, could you please give, like, what you're supposed to do, what you're all about, making the best fight the best? Okay, but let's say you didn't do that. Could you do Justin Gaethje versus Islam in the main event and Ilya making his 155 debut in the co-main against a big name? Charles, for example, Sarukian?
You could do that, but it sounds like Topuria doesn't want a piece of that, which drives me nuts because
did they promise him though? Yes or no? He says yes. Is a promise anymore? Luke?
I don't even know what that even
promises.
I don't know
promises made.
I don't know what that is supposed to even mean at this point. I'm not saying that they haven't done that, but like as the circumstances change, the need to enforce this changes, and I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, the question you have to ask yourself is, and I'm not getting into the fighter pay debate. I'm just asking. Could they make it, like, in other words, maybe they went to Islam and maybe they went to Ilya and are like, hey, we want you guys for this particular date. We want to make it. And Islam's like, yeah, I don't know. And Topuria's like, well, I would do it, but I'm not going to take a number one contender. To what extent does a little more of this change their options?
Yes.
And I don't know how to answer that question because I don't really know what really the holdup is, but it's something at least on the back of my mind if we really have to make this. But this is the point I'm going back to, BC, is, do they feel like, this is the answer, this is the question you have to answer. Do they feel like they have to make International Fight Week main events as maximally big as possible? And I guess I don't know the answer to that.
Not only do they not have to under the setup of their ESPN deal, which expires soon, but you can also make the argument of why waste some of these big bullet fights when you're about to sign with a Netflix or a Prime.
Right.
And wouldn't you want to fight like this level to kick it off? But I've also got to say, like, what do you owe the fans when you're already in a year that has watered down matchmaking and it's a topic on our show every week? This is a no-brainer. It's sitting in front of you. Answer this about a guy I respect the shit out of, Islam Makhachev, the best fighter in the world. I love him as a fighter. What's really going on with his stance that Topuria doesn't deserve it? Is it only about, hey, the UFC kind of softly maybe promised me that I could go up another division. Why would I have to fight this killer first? Isn't the MO of Makhachev and other hammers of his kind that they're going to take on all comers? How many? Did you see that spliced up video fans are putting out on Twitter of all the times that Makhachev was like, set up the next guy in line, I'll take him out, I fight the best all the time? Isn't this a bad look to be so bold? In the same way we criticize John Jones for publicly talking his way out of the Aspinall fight in almost every interview he gives, right? Acting like it doesn't matter to him or it's not big enough or he doesn't want it or whatever the case is. Shouldn't we give that same criticism to Islam in this case?
Islam didn't sit active for years at a time and like hold a title hostage. Point. I mean, he's been much more active. So to me, it's not the same kind of thing. Also, it's like, oh, a fighter said one thing at one point in their career and now they're saying a different thing at a different point in their career.
But shouldn't he, if you're the number one in the world, shouldn't it be about defending that? I mean, come on.
I think
I'm not even an Ilya guy here.
I was going to say, do you think it's the fact that Ilya is a natural 45er and all Islam's title defenses have been against former 45ers? Maybe he wants.
Yeah, it's not like he's ducking smoke if he's wanting a guy at 70. And again, the only reason he doesn't want Bilal is because they have a relationship from training together. It's not like he's doesn't want tough fights. He just wants the right kind of tough fight at this point. Which, by the way, you can also make the claim that if you're if you're Islam Makhachev and doing what he's done and fought who he's fought. Maybe he's earned that position. Maybe he's got just a few fights left in his career and he wants to make maximal use out of them And he doesn't want to fight another guy coming up from 45 who, if Islam goes in there and smokes him, they're going to be like, oh, all he does is beat up 45ers again.
Yeah, but this is different. And by the way, the major
different?
45,
I agree.
the major 45
argument
argument surrounds Volkanovski, who was the number one fighter at the time when they fought.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to count that as a 45 or blown up. The first fight was that close. Okay, I'm not even going to count that. Number two, Topuria is not a natural small 145er moving up. He's the second best fighter in the world on my pound for pound list. He's on the verge of breakout stardom. It's a different conversation.
It sounds to me like what you want is a promoter to make a maximum effort on certain tentpole events. Hold on, let me finish.
Yeah, the best to fight the best.
I don't think that's crazy. I'm not in any way disagreeing with you, BC. I really am not. But I just don't know if that's where we are with how events get made.
I just don't get that there's not a unanimous fan reaction that this has to be the next fight to make, and it makes more sense than it doesn't. In fact, it makes all the sense. I understand
I think that there is.
If you're an Islam super fan and you're trying to make the case that he's earned it. I get that there's other lanes where you can argue against it, but isn't it at the end of the day about number one fighting number two, and they happen to be in the same division and they're both huge stars? What am I missing?
No, I think most fans, from what I can tell online, and again, online sentiment is not necessarily always the best indicator. Certainly online, most people agree with you. Most people are like, I don't care what this means or what the obstacles are. It's the biggest fight they can make, or at least one of the very biggest fights they can make. And certainly, even John versus Tom, I think, is a much bigger fight. But I think a much better fight, honestly, in terms of pure fight, is probably going to be Islam Ilya, because you're getting two guys who are absolute peak of their powers, whereas John is clearly not at the peak of his powers, and Tom Aspinall probably is. And I don't know what that asymmetry will mean for the fight itself, but I'm just saying, number one versus number two pound for pound, if that's the way you have it, that's a fight that cannot be topped. Plus, it'd be exciting. Plus, the knockout power in the case of Topuria, super well. I think most fans certainly agree with you. Why aren't we getting it? If it's so obvious, I don't know.
Is it that both make extreme A-side salaries that, even though we always argue when we talk about Jones Aspinall, the UFC could pay that tomorrow. They don't need
here's
Turkey.
The thing: if you're Islam, are you making a lot more money fighting JDM than you are Topuria?
I don't know.
So you're not.
No, but in that one, at least JDM's going to make a certain amount. Islam's going to make this much. This seems to be a matchup where they're both going to make super A-side money, right? So I'm asking you if this is the UFC just not wanting to break out, or TKO not wanting to break out of the recent financial amount that they're paying for each fight. The same reason why we say they could make Jones Aspinall tomorrow, but they don't want to set certain precedents with Jones. Are they saying, and would that be part of this conversation, or am I looking too deep?
I don't think that would preclude them from making it.
Okay.
But the question then becomes, if in a world where guys are getting less and less from pay-per-view, if they would be enticed with bigger guarantees, and that one might be harder to procure, to what extent that could be doing it. But I honestly feel like that's really not even it. I would honestly feel like the biggest thing is the fact that Topuria's at 45 and he hasn't beaten anyone in the top five. And again, whatever inconsistent logic you might be getting from Islam is irrelevant at this point. Like, he has some leverage. He has, I won't say minimal, but modest amount of time left. And I'm not saying he can call all the shots, but he can call some of them.
I mean, it's not lost on me that you can keep two huge stars by not running them into each other. But it's sort of like, what is your MO as a promoter?
This is going to sound unfair because I'm like, I'm just blaming it, a different part of the game. But I am saying that, like, if the women's game had more stars, or even just any other division had more stars, we wouldn't be quite as reliant on like one or two matchups to make these big fights on the calendar. But again, I don't think there's a damn thing wrong with making Islam versus Ilya, other than the principals in these cases don't want to make it, and it's kind of bumping up against the fact-finding mission at 315. It just creates complication. I think you might end up getting it, but you might end up getting it kind of late.
You may end up getting it to kick off the Prime era, or whoever we're going on there.
You might get it kind of late.
So the DDP injury is not like officially official, but Kevin Iole sort of threw it in his column, and the column was based around the idea, in his opinion, that given all these matchmaking circumstances, that Makhachev versus Gaethje is probably the right move to go in that direction. We could certainly argue that it's not a bad fight by any means, but is it the best fight they can make? But he sort of threw it in there as almost after the fact that, by the way, I'm hearing that DDP is hurt. Chimaev instantly took to social media, and let's see his reaction. This guy, biggest bullshit. DDP did respond this morning, by the way, by showing essentially like the Wikipedia page of Chimaev's history of like
which
being
is quite
hurt or
extensive,
pulling out of fights or whatever that is right there. You're also seeing, I always say his last name wrong, Bahalio saying, I'll fight Chimaev, and then saying on Twitter that Chimaev accepted it, and then even going as far as saying that fight has to be for the interim title, even though DDP just fought 2 months ago.
Yeah, no.
Could that be like a co-main that you'd be okay with? We don't need an interim title on that, right?
Not to say you wouldn't get one.
Could Chimaev main event in IFW for an interim title against an opponent that isn't a star?
Oh, that's a good question.
That'd be
wow.
watered.
That's a great question.
You could argue that's watered down, or you could say Chimaev is a breakout star.
Well, first of all, on its own terms, Chimaev versus Bahalio is a great fight, right? Because Bahalio is good on the ground. You would imagine would be able to have some kind of an answer for at least portions of that game. And by the way, his striking's getting better as well. And he's kind of definitely has moved through the contendership queue fairly and competently. Could you do that as like a box office thing for International Fight Week if you slapped an interim title on it? I think you could get away with it because people are just desperate for Hamzat to ascend. But that would be a bit of a letdown because even then it still doesn't set up the big one. There needs to be some kind of major title resolution at International Fight Week. John Jones had a big title. You have to put a big title on the line here. So like you could get away with an interim definitely as the co-main. I don't know how that plays as a main event. That's a tougher sell to me.
When McGregor pulled out with the toe injury last year, the recurring theme was just call Poton, and he once again saved the day and delivered a big knockout in the main event, just like he did at UFC 300. You brought out the idea of, well, if everyone's healthy and willing, could we just do Ankolia defending in a rematch against Poton, and that'll fix all of this? Would that fix all of this in your eyes?
First of all, let me say one thing. I know that the biggest International Fight Week is Mendez-McGregor. That was supposed to be Aldo McGregor.
Yes,
he pulled out, and it was for an interim title, but like McGregor was red hot at that time at UFC 194.
McGregor could have gave a press conference in the main event.
Exactly.
Sold,
So that's a very different circumstance. I don't feel like Chimaev is quite on that level. So in any case, could you do the Poton on Ankalaev thing? Yes, you could. If you needed to pull that trigger, you could do it. But once again, what does that do to the remaining part of the calendar? Less a concern for 205. I know Olberg is in the waiting in the wings, but doesn't really have a mandate because that win over Jan was fine, but not remarkable.
I think he's got a lot of women dates, to be fair. You know
he might have. He's got some plowing to do. If you know what I mean. He's not a farmer. So I think you could get away with it, but all these things are. It's like, creating destination event at the top of by how you matchmake at the top of a card. It's difficult to do. It's the right kinds of matchups. There's a bunch of stuff they could do. As you mentioned, Islam versus Gaethje. I actually think that's probably your leading candidate at this
I think
point.
if Kevin Elliott's writing about it, probably is. He seems to be very connected and up on that. What about star power-wise, Islam versus Max Holloway? Do you remove Holloway because he got knocked out recently? Or do you say, well, he beat Gaethje at 155. He's the BMF champion. I know we're earmarking him for Poirier, right? So
yeah, I don't think they're going to pull that trigger. I think they definitely want that trilogy for the Louisiana show. I think Smoothie King Center is where it's kind of been, which is right next to the Superdome.
Is that a pay-per-view, by the way? It would almost have to be, right?
I don't know the number.
I think it's supposed to be a fight night.
Yeah.
That'd be a hell of a fight
for the
night main
BMF
event.
title. That's a great fight night.
I mean, you could could you make that as the 317 and just be like, sorry, New Orleans, we're going in this direction.
Could you main event with that?
It's so much star power that people would not get angry. I don't think.
Who would complain about the fight? Nobody. Poirier retirement fight is history. I think if you had a strong supporting cast,
and the rematch was fire.
I think if you had a strong supporting cast, people would be happy. But as it stands, as good as those flyweight fights are that you listed, including the title fight, those are quality fights. But those are not going to get people to look the other way and not having the big hammer.
Oh yeah,
or your main event.
This is Freddie. Hey, Long Island Luke, are we missing anything? Is there a matchup, a name that we're not bringing out here that could do this?
No, I said to you guys, like, Poton Ankalaev to me at this point feels the most likely. And like to Luke's point about holding up divisions, they've talked about doing this rematch anyway, so I don't think it holds up any. Like, Olberg should be next, but realistically, they're probably going to do the rematch regardless. So.
Yeah, no, they're going to do the rematch. Olberg doesn't have a mandate. I mean,
so why not just do it at International Fight Week? You got the KKF, Pantoja as the co-main. I mean,
this is. I fully agree with this, but this is my only problem with all of this is and I think this is what you're feeling as well, which is, again, they're building calendars. That's different than making events. But it just feels to me like what hole could we plug is a very different conversation than what jewel could we build around. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this can go in here. You know, it's almost like, you ever seen those cooking shows where it's like, okay, your ingredients are licorice, bubble gum, banana peels, cigarette butts, and rock salt. And you're like, you got to make some dish versus, hey, chef, just make the best dish with the best ingredients you can. And you might get a better meal one way or the other, but they're a very different kind of process by which you are making a dish.
And should your counter to my aggressive push that Islam Ilya needs to be next, should it have been on 68 days notice? You know what I mean? Like you would want to really hype that.
That's a doable amount of
They don't really
notice.
hype it like that anymore, though. It's the old days of press tours and stuff doesn't happen as much. So.
Yeah, but again, 68 is fine. Like as a how much time do you have to do a camp? That's plenty. That's plenty of time.
All right, interesting. One final note regarding headliners and injuries. The UFC 316 main event, of course, I believe June 7th, Newark, New Jersey, is the rematch as Merab defends his bantamweight title against Sean O'Malley. What did you make of that video that's out there? I guess Sean O'Malley and people were surveying land of where he's going to build his new house, and he seemed to be on crutches. Is that troublesome? Is that worrisome?
I don't know what's real anymore, especially with internet pranks.
Or if it took place a year ago. Yeah.
Exactly.
Long Island, look, you got anything to add to this?
I didn't even see that video.
I mean, I'll just say this. God help them if it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole reason that they're making this event is in part because they are trying to find them. By the way, when that fight got announced, like the mass confusion over how that fight got made was like baffling to me. Like, how could the UFC make this? And I'm like, how could they not make it? I mean, again, you could have pulled the trigger. Yes, you could have pulled the trigger on a 25 versus 35 super fight. You could have done that. But again,
even that doesn't sell.
That doesn't sell. And that also creates log jams potentially in the divisions, depending on what happens there. More to the point, like, oh, we're just going to have Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan. We're going to try and sell that in a North American market. This is a fine fight to sell, but you need probably, if you're going to sell to a North American, and in particular American pay-per-view buying audience, probably is going to help to have an American on there. Probably going to have one that at least had some kind of a push behind him, although that has certainly faded. But the point I wanted to make is, like, O'Malley selling this has been, oh, I was fucked up the first time. If you're fucked up the second time, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
And you make a great point. I don't know to believe videos on the internet anymore with all this AI bullshit. Right?
It's not even that. It's just like, I hope for your sake it's not true, because the entire selling point is that you were injured last time.
I fully agree with you on that one. Wild times. We'll see how that plays out. But speaking of time, speaking about a good time, by the way, now is a very good time to remember where tequila's story truly began. Yes, in 1795, Cuervo invented tequila. I said that right. Since then, Cuervo had stayed true to its roots. We're talking about the same family, the same land, the same passion for what they do. 230 years later, we're still here. Cuervo is in every pour, every margarita, and in every celebration, including when you have 3 of them at an MK live show. But more importantly, it's time to enjoy the tequila that started it all. Cuervo, the tequila that invented tequila. ProximoCuervo.com. Please drink responsibly. And Luke, we have a great relationship with Cuervo.
Yep.
How about that episode of Pregame Preview 314 that we did right before our vacations with one Jed Mishu II? Entertaining piece of business.
Yes. Aside from getting lice from Jed, I had a wonderful time in here. Shouts to Cuervo being great sponsors. Wonderful to drink that.
The Blanco.
Can't wait for UFC 315. I know people are kind of bagging on that main event. I got to tell you, I like that main event quite a bit. I think it's going to be much better than people think. And I look forward to getting ready for it with our friends at Cuervo.
Right here in this studio. Maybe we'll get old man Mendenhall out of the bullpen. All right. Maybe we'll get.
He took his hat off camera.
Anakin?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And I was like, I saw the scene at the end of Return of the Jedi. You don't make it out of here, bud.
All right. Hey, it's time for topic number 2. And when we're talking about, by the way, the PFL, the Professional Fighters League, and let's be honest and fair, because that's what we always try to be. It's been a tough year for PR for the PFL, despite the success of Nurmagomedov versus Hughes and the fact that 3 cards into their tournament season, it has been kind of action-packed and decent. But let's talk about bigger picture stuff. The biggest picture, the biggest star they have, you could argue, Dakota Ditcheva, the 125-pound superstar who won their $1 million in their tournament last year, kind of quickly and brutally defeating former UFC title challenger Taila Santos. Well, Dakota Ditcheva hasn't fought since closing out 2024. She did arrive at ATT in South Florida for a sit-down with that guy, MMA Junkies Mike Bone. And Luke, what we heard out of her was Ditcheva airing her concern over her PFL future, including a lack of communication from the promotion, no concrete plans for her next fight, and the promotion kind of just being like, we don't really know when you're going to fight next. Let's listen in. We certainly want to react to this. Here's Mike Bone and Dakota.
This point, the past 3 years, you had 2 fights under your belt already. So, I mean, I'm sure it's nice. You got the big prize. Life's probably good, but I'm sure you're getting itchy knuckles, right?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, the prize, like you said, was amazing. The belt's amazing. But for me, I want to fight. You know, I loved fighting 4 times last year. The year before that, I fought 3 times. The year before that, I fought 4 times. So I've always been a really active fighter. So this for me now, especially not having anything even lined up, is really like mentally challenging for me. Like I've really got to just believe in the process and let everything happen how it should. It's testing me for sure. Like that's probably why I went home, because at the start of the year I was here in Florida training with nothing like lined up, seeing everybody train for this tournament. It was really disheartening for me. So I went home, refreshed a little bit. Now I'm back, ready to get back in the gym, and hopefully something will come up by then.
Got to put you in there at some point. I assume you have a contract and they do owe you fights at some points.
Exactly, yeah. That's another thing. Like I'm in contract and you guys have to have me fight. So I know that they will pull something out of the bag. There's just been a lot of changes. Obviously, this whole year has been a big change for them. So I'll trust that they bring something for me.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a bummer, because I know after the last fights, you're like, I want them to find something that's going to test me and, like, you know, raise up the level. But now it seems like it's just get me anything.
Yeah, I'm just like, get me anything, literally. But like you said, you know, it was kind of, it's hard. I get it's hard for PFL. You know, they've put all the girls in the tournament, and then now they need to find someone that's going to kind of give me a good competition. They can't give me someone that's, you know, just kind of signed to the PFL and not really had that much experience, because it doesn't make sense. I've just beat Santos very easily. I think that's another thing that I have to understand is, like, if I'd had a 5-round war with Santos, there would have been a few more people in there that would have been more of a match. But I walked through it. I walked through everyone last year. So it just put them in a difficult position now, and I get it. But I'm sure they'll work to find someone.
So, Luke, this video was last Thursday. It went viral quickly. The following night on the PFL 3 broadcast of their tournament season, they brought Dakota Ditcheva ringside, and this is what they said.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. So, a little bird telling me in my ear that we've got good news. It'll be a July fight for Dakota Ditcheva.
I did just have a great chat with Dom. I did, actually. Feeling a little bit more hopeful now. I think people were getting a little bit stressed that they weren't going to have me fight this year. But, guys, I'm coming back. Don't worry.
It was always the plan to have Dakota Ditcheva fighting in 2025. It will be the first of 4 Champion Series dates in the 2025 calendar.
Now, to be fair, no opponent, no official date, no location. What does this say when the biggest piece that PFL has, the arguing point, someone that essentially homegrown and built their stardom through them, that is young, ready to take over the world, that she has to go public to complain to get noticed? I know that they tried to fix it the next day, but what does this say about the promotion's attitude and maybe their structure? Because all they care about now is this tournament, matching guys in rematches that have second-rate people like this with no titles at stake. Where do you weigh in on this?
This is something that this version of the issue is new. This version of, as you mentioned, and we saw the video, Dakota Ditcheva speaking to, by the way, it's Mike Bonfire.
Oh, okay. I guess I was speaking more of his, like, you know, personal
I thought you were doing
intentions.
a bit, and then you doubled down on it. I'm like,
I kind of just adopted that pronunciation.
Listen, if you're
kind of like you and Caceres, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's different, but either way, he calls it Bon. I'll just put it that way. But to the point, this is a new version of the issue, but it's an old and it's a lingering issue. It's one that we've covered on the show extensively, and I feel like a broken record when we go over this because there's like denial about it. But now you're just beginning to see evidence that there can no longer be denial about it if you want to understand how this promotion is suffering to a degree. They're a slave to a content format that cripples them. And they are trying to figure out ways to get around it. And they have some of that going for them. Certainly, to be clear, in fact, the first show of the year in January of this year with Usman and Paul Hughes is an example of getting around that. And by the way, just want to point out, look how good that show was.
And that main event was a fight of the year contender.
Fight
It
of
was
the year
incredible.
contender. They were in a great venue. Like, I don't know how they can look at that event and be like, gee, do you think it makes more sense to go to a place? Now, in this particular case, I think they were in Qatar or Qatar, and they're probably paid to be there. But it was a great venue. It was a great crowd. It was a signature main event with a card that was built below it, rather than being a slave to a tournament structure. But here is the central tension. Here's what is happening with PFL. We've often talked about how they posture almost as like in treating their company as like a financial asset rather than a fight promotion, and that's certainly been part of it. But in order to raise money from investors, it seems like they feel it, that they have to have some kind of silly-ass differentiator to the UFC. Aha, we're not just a UFC light. We are a UFC competitor. We do things a little bit differently here. That's our value add. And they essentially just try to gamify everything by creating, in this particular case, tournament systems for all of their weight classes. And then they have these long delays in the calendar and everything else.
But couldn't they put her in the main event on a tournament card against somebody else to keep the chains moving?
They certainly could, but then it would interfere with the rest of their plans. But the point I'm trying to make is what comes first in how they evaluate everything is getting the tournament's needs met. And then they try and piecemeal stuff on the back end, which is why guys are having long droughts where they're not competing, or they're finding out very late. No, this was obviously a bit of ahead of time, assuming that date holds for July. Again, not a specific date, but the summer or whatever, that they can make it happen. But it's all something of an afterthought, rather than having the freedom to build a card, put guys under it, put ladies under it. If they want to have, one tournament fight here or whatever, some kind of brand differentiator, but then put Johnny Eblin at the top of the card, Patchy Mix at the top of the card, Dakota Ditcheva at the top of the card.
Oh, you mean your best assets who never fight?
Rather than nimbly using that with the freedom to kind of write their future, they are constrained in this straitjacket of the tournament system. So they're caught between, what do we do to raise money from investors? Because you're not raising it at the gate. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but that's obvious. Conversely, by going to a model that is venture capital funded, it constrains the ordinary things that they're able to do to make their roster stand out. Something, at some point, has to give, Brian Campbell.
And it should have given at the start of this year. And while they do deserve praise for changing the things that the fans were most complaining about, the ridiculous no elbows rule, changing this tournament format in a way that they think makes more sense. To me, it only makes it more convoluted for half the money, and you don't even get a championship at the end. It's one thing if you say, look, Patricio Pitbull is an all-time legend, but he's 37. He's got a big Bellator contract, and that's just not going to meet our financial plan to pay that. That's one thing. But you let Aaron Pico go like they did, it's unforgivable. You make Patchy Mix sit there and tweet that he just wants to get recognized and get a fight when he might be the best fighter on pound-for-pound level that they have, unforgivable. You have Nurmagomedov and Hughes, but then you disappear for 2 months. I'm just saying, like, they figured out some good things, like getting Paul Hughes back in the main event coming up. Great idea. But you can't F around with Dakota Ditcheva. That's like that's your crown jewel of somebody to sell with and build upon. She had to go to this length?
Once again, they're not building fight events. They're building a... This is the problem with modern...
Then you're going to die. You're not building.
People think this is like a UFC-specific criticism. It is absolutely not. With these big promotions that are trying to fill big content demands, they're building calendars. They are not building events. Whereas if they were building events, they would be able to sit back and go, wait a second, let's get Usman back in rotation, to your point. Let's get Dakota back in rotation. She would have already... Dude, it's the 5th month of the year almost. She would have easily have fought by now. You can
put her against anybody and just put the PFL championship at stake. Like, actually declare champions. Don't give out belts on pay-per-views and in all-star games. They got 15 belts.
But BC, they don't generate money at the gate. They don't generate money on pay-per-view. They generate money in B2B sales or B2 government sales, and then venture capital. You have to satisfy that master too. This is the inherent contradiction in what they are trying to do. They have to serve a master who ultimately undercuts the product. Tough place to be.
Okay, but is the master the amount of dates, or is the master that it has to be the tournament format or we wouldn't get this money? Because if it's only about we have to fill the dates, They have smart people there that can matchmake.
Yes.
Mike Hogan, right?
Yeah, Mike Hogan knows what he's doing. Yes.
We covered the Bellator end run on Showtime probably closer than anybody besides Josh Thompson and Big John, right?
Yep.
It was always matched very well. They took the resources they had and got the most out of them. Are you telling me they couldn't do that with these set PFL dates? Or are you saying that they can't get the money unless they push this gimmick of the tournament?
I think that they can't. How are they going to generate money if they've spent all this time not building an audience?
By taking the 3 or 4 or 5 names that matter and pushing the shit out of them and keeping them as active as possible. They're doing the exact opposite. They're inactive.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do.
Again, what I think that they're doing is trying to hold on to a business model that ultimately undercuts their ability to do the thing that matters most for a fight promotion, which is find, develop, and develop stars and then attract audiences as a consequence.
Okay,
and that system that they've built simply it gets you part of the way there, and then it doesn't allow you to capitalize on it. One more time, I'm just going to say this. I found it in my email, like maybe before I went on vacation. I remember when Bjorn Rebney's Bellator sent out an email being like, hey, if you fought in a previous tournament, you don't have to fight in tournaments anymore. We're going to have our tournament system and then the post-tournament pool of contenders, whatever the fuck name they gave for it. And he lost his job about a week later. Like,
yes.
They realized you had to scrap that system completely. Now, Bellator obviously fell in harder times eventually anyway, and I think that's the nature of. Also, we should just say the elephant in the room here. I don't know even if they made those changes that it would save them. We should be very clear about that. But at the same time, for sure, this way, not being able to maximize your hottest talents, I don't know how that serves you long term. I really don't get it.
It's good that they saved it by making that announcement that we showed, but you don't have an opponent. You don't even have the terms. Like, is it for the PFL title? Like, couldn't you fix both masters by each of these tournament cards having a main event that's separate where your actual champion is defending? Give Johnny Eblen the middleweight belt and have him headline the first one. Make Dakota Ditcheva defend the 125 title in the second. Usman Nurmagomedov back in the next. On and on and on.
Yep.
Patchy Mix. Okay, now he's our bantamweight champion starting today. Shouldn't you do that and then say, look, also these tournament cards will produce the next title challenger at the end of the year?
That's exactly how they should be doing it.
You can serve both masters. I don't want it to be all negativity and hate, but I have one more negative thing. Let's watch this meme here that somebody put together. Luke, is this true? Is this Dakota Ditcheva in the PFL?
That's a nice car.
That's a nice car in that double wide trailer there.
I think that's obviously it's a little overstated, but
will they be able to keep her happy is the real question. Will they be able to keep her there?
Okay. Let me right here we go.
Here we go.
I'm going to look into the future.
Yes.
And I'm going to use the fact that I've been watching MMA for a very long time to understand and see if I can look into my crystal ball here, Brian Campbell. And in my crystal ball, I see it. The PFL not going to make it, buddy. Not going to make it. Okay? So
it doesn't matter, you're saying?
I'm saying it's a question of if, not when, she goes to UFC. Oh, sorry. It's a question of when, not if, she goes to UFC. Now, that could be a couple of years. It could be a little while. I don't know how that's going to work.
Are you saying without saying that people like us who feel like we're smart in the MMA business and we're giving PFL free advice, that even if Don Davis believed our free advice, his key to survival is only going this tournament mode. So even if they lose her, it doesn't matter because, as you would say, the trains are still going to leave on time. We're going to have a tournament for every one card, and that's our only way to survive financially.
I'm saying that they're already in a very difficult environment where if one dominant firm has a grip on relevancy and you have no real way to wrestle that away from them, you have to be really, really on your game to have any chance of survival, and they've handcuffed themselves to a content and program schedule that won't allow them to do that. What is supposed to be the reason that I think that they're going to be around for a few more years other than they could continue to get money from venture capitalists? But short of that, like someone explain to me what the math is.
Call Darren Owen. Just merge the GFL, the PFL, Eagle FC, MMA.
But you know what? Like, here's what I'll say about this, man. I know a lot of UFC fighters complain they don't get enough fights, and certainly that can be true in certain cases.
You said UFC fighters.
Yes.
Oh, they complain too?
So I'll talk to someone. They'll be like, they're happy that they get the 2 that they get a year.
Sure.
But a lot of them want 3. Sometimes they even want 4, and that's where you get that 2 to 3 is where you see not a lot of belly aching, but they would prefer it to be a little more active. But then I would say, look at the market outside of it. I mean, if you're on the regional show, you can get 7 fights in a year. It's very, very easy to get booked, but there's not much money in that. it's these middling ones that are supposed to be able to deliver for some of these people. And with GFL or Bellator gone, one, significantly reducing their MMA footprint. PFL's time is limited, and GFL, like a fart in the wind, just gone with the
I feel
breeze.
like we'll get to that. All right, PFL did have their third tournament card at Universal Studios in Orlando. I'm not even going to bring up Ariel taking down Dono for Twitter. He did kind of dunk on him like Scottie Pippen.
But the guy fucking walked into it.
I know.
Why was he? By the way, he went after Damon Martin and then called him a clown and then edited his tweets.
Edited
and then they
like
took that out
17 times. Dude.
Yeah. So he took that part out.
Go
and it's
back
like,
to LinkedIn, brother.
It's like, bro, do you okay, you want to go after the media because you think that they're mean to you, right? That's what's happening here. He wants to go after the media because he thinks they're wrong and he thinks they're mean. How the fuck is that going to fix your problems, Don?
Don, we want you to succeed. Hey, Don, put the camera on me, Don.
Yeah.
We want you to succeed. We fucking want more business that's fun to watch. I love Strikeforce. I had a great time covering Bellator. What the hell's going on here? All right, PFL 3 happened Friday night, Universal Studios Orlando. In that main event, in the middleweight tournament, Fabian Edwards' brother, right? Brother of Leon?
Fabian
Edwards, brother of Leon. He took out a guy we know well, Impa Kasangane, in round 2. Pretty impressive TKO.
Yeah.
Are you looking at Fabian as a favorite in this tournament now?
Maybe.
Or you're not looking that deep?
Well, first of all, he doesn't typically get finishes, and that was pretty good for him. Also, Impa is, not the best fighter in the world, but a good test for most people.
And he made a run. Was it last year?
Dude, he made a killing. He won one of the $1 million tournament.
Yes.
Did he win one or two of the tourneys?
I think one.
He won one. He lost by knockout last year.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. But anyway, he's made good money. He's made good money, certainly given the state of the game he occupies, the place in the game anyway. But Edwards, this was a nice win for him. One of the better ones he's had in his career for sure. He looked good doing it. So we'll see what happens.
I did enjoy that for him. Also in that co-main event, this is worth talking about. We're in the lightweight division in Dagestan's Gadzi Rabadanov.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that he had that great Bellator run, and then you look at his page.
Ryzen 2.
He's now 11-0 since 2020 after taking care of former UFC fighter Mark J. Casey in 32 seconds.
Yeah, he's fucking awesome.
To make a huge statement about his chances in this tournament and maybe being one of the bigger hammers. I mean, look, an 11-fight win streak against some of the names, when you do look back over the different federations that he's done it against, we never talk about him. Should we?
We never talk about him because he was fighting guys with no Wikipedia entries on Bellator for a long time.
Some decent guys, right? Didn't he?
I didn't say they were bad fighters. They just were not heralded. He was not winning heralded contests against big-name opponents. But now you're beginning to see him turn that up. How old is he? Let me see here very quickly.
I think he's like 31.
Rabadanov is 31, so he's also in his prime now, smack in the middle of it. Wins over Brent Primus, finishes him off in the third round, then Mark J. Casey here in the first. Looking to your point, fucking awesome doing it. Dude, Rabadanov is ready to make a move in this division. Take note.
Long Island Luke, you're hardcore. Did you see anything else on this card that we should be talking about?
I got to shout out Aaron Jeffrey, who was like the first fight of the night.
First not fight. Mm-hmm.
Cashed him as an underdog, plus 180, so that was nice. Josh Silveira going over 2.5. That was also plus money.
Ooh.
There was some good bets on this card.
You're only speaking from a gambling standpoint, apparently. There you go.
By the way, Dalton Rasta beating Sadabusi. Sadabusi, former champion.
Nothing. Yeah.
Dalton Rasta, first team all body. You ever seen him?
Yes.
Looks like fucking He-Man when he walks out there. He got a nice submission victory. By the way, another Bellator over PFL win. Bellator had... Dude,
they own PFL.
I'm telling you about Scott Coker. Like, there's good things about him. There's bad things about him. There's successes he's had as a promoter. There's some failures. But that dude's ability over the course of time to develop quality talent and from little places that you never imagined, you got to give him some credit. He's done really well. I mean, I remember when the Strikeforce roster came over, people were like, how good are they going to be? And then they all end up becoming champions. You're like, pretty fucking good.
Isn't that more reason to pay the Bellator guys and get them back out there?
Also, how about this? We always think of like the Kiwi fighters and the Aussie fighters as like Australians, and we don't talk about any of the ones outside of them. JJ Wilson beating Mads Burnell. Mads Burnell,
solid
UFC, very good veteran.
Extreme Couture.
JJ Wilson proper fucked him up.
Yeah.
Like JJ Wilson, another Bellator guy. Now also Mads was a Bellator guy too, but be on the lookout. One of these Kiwi guys that you don't ever pay attention to, that because he doesn't fight in the UFC. Very, very good young talent.
Shout out to the coach, Jonathan Coachman. Love that they're using him on this.
Also, Clay Collard.
More often.
Clay Collard got wiped out.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of seeing the same guys in these tournaments year after
He's
year.
lost like 5 of his last 6 now.
Hey,
That's it.
Hey, he had a run during the pandemic. Okay,
He had a run during the pandemic, and you got to give that guy some credit. He shows up to fight.
He was fun, but
Limited,
as soon as he, you beat the Pettis and the Jeremy Stevens of the world, and then you just fall off.
I
the
forgot
cliff,
that he
I
beat
think.
Anthony Pettis.
Who was the boxing prospect he wiped out?
I forgot that too, but I remember the fight distinctly.
Yeah, some guy they were like it's some former MMA fighter.
Who did he fight? Max Holloway in the UFC?
He fought Max Holloway. He got whooped. Now I need to know who was the boxing guy who he wiped out during the pandemic. Let me see. Oh yeah, here we go. So when was that? 2020?
Yes.
Was it David Kaminsky? No, because it was in. Maybe
Could have been late. It could have been early 21 too. I mean, he had that run where he was winning fights he shouldn't have, and then they started featuring him.
In 2020, he beat Quayshawn Toller. I don't think it's that one. Raymond Guajardo. I don't remember. I don't think it was that one.
I don't even remember.
And then the one in June 2020 was David Kaminsky.
That could be it.
And the other one was Laurent Nelson. I don't think, Maurice Williams, and he lost 4 in a row after that.
All right, we're deep down a rabbit hole. Let's pull it.
All right.
Let's pull it back in. Hey, let's go to topic number 3. Jake Paul, a masterful promoter in his own right with most valuable promotions. And also he boxes. Did you know that? But coming off of his one-sided victory over a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, we were waiting to see who the next big name would be for Jake. Yes, he tried with Canelo and Turki Al-Sheikh intervened. Yes, he seemed to try with Tank Davis for as weird as that fight is, but interesting, but also could they even make it? That didn't happen despite their intentions. Now we have the details of the announcement. It'll be June 28th. It'll be at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. And by the way, it's going to go head-to-head with whatever International Fight Weekend UFC 317 has to offer. The opponent? Former middleweight world title holder Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So, Luke, given the public's continued demand of fight a real fighter, this accomplishes that, like, on paper. But we do have to bring up the brutal facts. Chavez is now 39. He's just 8-6 since 2012. He lost to Anderson Silva straight up in 2021. He fought life and death with Uriah Hall last year on a Jake Paul undercard. He's also had major drug and mental health challenges and was, I believe, committed within the last year, and concerns from his significant other that he would take his own life. What's the single best word, honestly, to describe this matchup?
DOA.
It's like, wouldn't it have been great like 3 years ago? Before it was Anderson Silva fight was 2021.
Pre-Silva.
If it was like after the Woodley fights and then he stepped up to the Chavez former title holder level.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So let's try and let me just tell you where my head is at on this one, BC. If we are talking about Jake Paul, the promoter, and what he represents for boxing, let me say this. Jake Paul and what he's done for women's boxing is more than I've seen any other promoter.
Yeah, they make headlines almost daily lately.
Yeah, I mean, Salida Promotions does a lot, obviously, with Clarissa Shields, and they've been supporting
and Eddie
her for
Hearn
years.
And Katie Taylor, shout out.
For sure. There's been some other ones that have, I don't want to forget that there's other ones that have done it, but like in a short amount of time, the names he's signing, the fights he's trying to make, the platform that these fights are going on, because you remember, obviously, we're going to get Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano 3 in July. Right, so
Netflix
on Netflix,
MSG,
yes. And by the way, also like what he's done for American boxing, we should answer a question. Oh, is Jake Paul bad for boxing? No, absolutely not. In terms of getting relevant, when I say relevant, I mean in terms of pop culture, relevant in pop culture, making pop culture moments. He's achieved that for American boxing. He's trying to bring fights home for the most part.
He's been on like every network.
He's been on every network.
In big fights, he works with other promoters.
He's signing women in ways that, like, again, just most other promoters are not doing. Like, when it comes to what he's done for boxing in that sense, and as an energizing force as a promoter, 2 thumbs up for me for Jake Paul. I give him real credit, and I'm going to say this with total sincerity. I'm grateful that he's here. I mean that absolutely. It is great that a young guy who's got big dreams, big ambitions, big dollars,
balls too,
big cojones, and is trying stuff as a promoter and as a force in this game is exactly what the game needs right now. I'm grateful for it. I mean that from total sincerity. But who gives a fuck about this fight? Seriously, I'm not even trying. Like, this is what I'm trying to tell to people, dude. What is the argument for watching another fight that means nothing? They are at best boring, these Jake Paul fights. They are at best boring, and at worst, I'm not going to say a scam in the sense of like, it's fixed or something, but you feel dirty when it's over. What is the argument for watching that, Brian
All right,
Campbell?
had this look, you're this is name only. You're buying Chavez's name, but like anyone with half a clue could read off the same stats I did, or at least know that this guy's damaged goods. Now, in some degree, he has to be damaged goods for this fight to make sense. Like, we get what this is all about. He's just super damaged goods. So I ask you, from both a storyline standpoint and even from a necessity standpoint, if this was Tommy Fury, and they seem to be talking over Twitter and arguing, if this was the rematch, Jake's only lost. The only time Jake fought a quote-unquote real fighter, even though Tommy's kind of a reality star turn fighter. Would that have been fine? Would that have been, okay, you're going back to try to right the wrong of your split decision loss, the only loss of your career?
That would be bad boxing, but it would at least be a situation in my mind that you could expect to be reasonably competitive for where he's at. And I'm not trying to like diminish his journey as a boxer. What I'm trying to say is he can fight whoever he wants to fight. And again, as a promotional entity, I'm grateful for his presence. Make the argument as a fight fan, somebody who watches fights for a living or spends, if you're just a fan, you don't work in the industry, somebody who spends a lot of their time and their money paying for stuff like this. What is the fucking argument? We have seen this movie before. He's made a lot of progress, but is ultimately not that great. And he's taking on another hand-picked opponent who is a corpse of relative to what he once was.
In a history of quitting. A history
of quitting, who's clearly looking for a payday, who clearly has had troubled times.
Is in good shape.
Fine. I'm sure he's in good shape. But what is the argument about why that is must-see TV? It's the opposite of that. I can't do another fucking Jake Paul fight cycle where I'm expected to launder what he's doing with like this narrative of, up from the bootstraps, I'm trying my best. Dude, I don't give a fuck anymore.
So here's the deal. If the Tyson fight didn't just happen, I think we would be more forgiving on this. We would go, okay, you're cherry picking a name, but at least it's a name. It's a former champion.
Dude, this is
a cruiserweight fight. I think coming off of the Tyson fight where that was clearly like almost pro wrestling of like, let's make this money together. Yeah. This we can't accept
Dude,
this.
After the Mike Perry fight, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
I hear you. From an entertainment standpoint,
it's like, did he beat up Mike Perry? Was it one side in that sense? But like, this is what I'm getting at. In order to make it exciting, he's got to have total dominance over a guy, and on the other hand, he had total dominance over Mike, but he had mercy, which was like the worst of all worlds.
If this was KSI, would you have cared? That's like the one non-traditional boxing opponent that people seem to really want
it's
to
a
see.
situation where like, is that for me? Probably not, but I think that's a better matchup in terms of skill level.
Sure.
And I think Jake beats him, by the way, from what I can tell anyway. But just like asking me to spend another media cycle, what are Jake's chances? How good is he? This is kabuki fucking theater.
All right, let me bring up
it's
this
all
point.
One last thing. It's all, again, I'm not saying that I want to be clear. I'm not arguing that the result is they figured out ahead of time. That's not what I'm saying. But, in picking an opponent this languid and picking an opponent this ready to be picked off, they're setting up an obvious outcome here. Why am I supposed to dignify that anymore? I've seen this movie already. I don't give a shit anymore.
I'm not far from that, by the way. Let's hear. Somebody's going to try to argue and sell this. And one of those somebodies is a big key to the storyline. This is a co-promotion with Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions. It will be a DAZN pay-per-view, not a Netflix show, but still should drive some demand. And to help it from a actual boxing perspective, I've got to actually applaud them. The co-main event's pretty damn awesome. Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez, your unified cruiserweight champion, will defend his WBO and WBA titles against two-time former champion Uniel Dorticos, Cool Ranch himself. That's a hardcore fight fan only, I get that. But that's a pretty badass actual fight. So, Luke, am I trying to connect too many tea leaves when I say, if Jake was recently arguing to try to fight Canelo, which he was, then he was publicly campaigning for Anthony Joshua, which he was, you could say to yourself, okay, Jake's future is probably more in promoting than it is fighting. This would be at least him cashing himself out the biggest way possible. If he couldn't get AJ and he couldn't get Canelo and couldn't get Tank, are they setting up for if Jake beats Silva and Zurdo defends in the co-main event,
Jake beats
that
Chavez.
Jake would fight, Jake beats Chavez, that Jake would fight Zurdo Ramirez for the unified cruiserweight title and, I guess in a sense, cash himself out, but also take the chance that people have been criticizing him for so long, even though he only has 11 or 12 fights. Take that chance of like, I'm going to try to be legit. Is that where we're headed?
I don't think we should ever assume that until he gives you a reason to assume that. And to this point, he's given you absolutely no reason to assume that. Everyone wants to look the other way on this fight, and then the next fight, and then the next fight, and then the next fight, because, there's a nobility to the greater journey. And to the point you raised, BC, perhaps there is. Perhaps, by the way, a Zurdo fight would be a very real fight. In fact, I would be actually worried about Jake Paul in that case.
Zurdo would be favored heavily to KO.
Zurdo would probably fuck him up. But there would be real nobility in that fight.
And there'd be intrigue to see Jake try to swim in those deep waters.
100%. Yeah. So I'm not going to say he won't do that, BC, but until he actually takes a meaningful step in that direction, to me, all of this is just a big circle he's going in, where you're just trying to satisfy the same demands you were trying to satisfy the last time. The easiest opponent with the biggest name that you can, there's very little chance they can do anything to you. Why am I supposed to care about that? Why am I supposed to care about an opponent who can't do shit to you?
Oscar De La Hoya is here to tell you why. He is the co-promoter of this event, and he talked to Marcos Viegas of Fight Hub TV about why this fight matters.
So imagine if Jake Paul can hurt or even wobble Chavez Jr. It's something that Canelo didn't do or couldn't do. So Jake Paul, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., it's a real fight. Yeah. Look, people keep talking about Jake Paul, well, he's not a real fighter, this and that. Well, he's fighting a real fighter now in Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. It's going to be a good test for both guys. Obviously, Jake Paul, he's a masterclass promoter in what he does. He's been doing some great things. I mean, Mike Tyson, 60 million people. Fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who, when he trains, when he gets in shape, when he's focused, he will be dangerous for anybody. Look, Canelo Alvarez fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. We promoted that fight many years ago. Didn't knock him out, couldn't hurt him. So imagine if Jake Paul can hurt or even wobble Chavez Jr. It's something that Canelo didn't do or couldn't do. So
I know that's the hook for their promotion, but that's freaking laughable. I'm not going to say there's not intrigue
First
in
of all,
seeing.
Canelo beat him 120-109.
I know, and Chavez was weight trained, and he didn't even try. I know he didn't get finished, but he didn't even try. He was just there to collect a paycheck. It's laughable what Oscar's doing, but as Oscar says, you can talk shit as long as you're telling the truth. He wasn't telling the truth there. Luke, there is some intrigue, by the way, to see what Paul would look like against Chavez, but you saw Chavez against Uriah Hall last year, dude. No. He's on this YouTube level. So, I mean, there is a world where this actually is oddly competitive, and that'd be bad for Jake in a lot of ways. But I don't think there's a world that, unless it's a war and Jake survives it and knocks him out late triumphantly, where Jake actually proves what he's setting out to do, right? Or do you think Jake doesn't even care about that? It's only about money on this fight.
I think Jake has been very clear that this is principally about getting money for him.
And not so much about proving, look, I beat a real fighter.
Which is why it's again, if people want to watch it, if people want to pay for it, fine. I do whatever makes you happy. But it's just this
You made the point.
I just get so sick of these questions. Is he great?
Let's see Chavez. Let's see the shape that he is in. I did see him ringside at the Tank Roach fight, and he looked surprisingly very thin and healthy at least. But, he's 39, he's plodding, he's slow. He does have a certain level of technique, but if Anderson Silva was able to outclass a better version of that, and then Jake had a competitive fight with Anderson, I guess maybe this could be entertaining at best, but it's not.
There's a possibility where it could, but it's just you have to ask yourself, why? Just ask yourself, BC. Okay, BC, let me ask you. Why is Jake Paul making this fight? Answer that question is honestly, why did he make this fight?
Money, stay busy, and to further the argument that if he is going to fight somebody like a Zurdo next, look, I just beat a former champion. At least he'll be able to say that.
Okay, but that's all, what you're saying
it's all pro wrestling.
Right, you're just basically arguing he's trying to get an opponent that has something in the line item of his resume that he then can claim for some kind of, again, greater nobility cause. And I'm I don't know if this leads to a greater nobility cause.
It's too bad that he didn't get this a couple years ago where it actually could have mattered to a certain degree in his story arc. But we don't have to play it, but he tweeted about Jake did about this fight, and he got community noted for trying to say that. For trying to say that the Jake would say 5 years ago I stepped into the ring. He had a good story about stepping up against a real former champion and selling the fight. But I think we have the community note here where they say Jake's claim of Canelo could barely beat, as you said earlier. Canelo dominated Chavez 120-108 on all three scorecards in a real ho-hum pay-per-view event. That was May of 2017, I believe.
Yeah. Again, I'm glad Jake Paul's a promoter, but I've seen too many bad Jake Paul fights to get excited about the next one.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Let's go to before we get to topic number 4, Luke, we have fantastic partners that we should be talking about.
Yeah, we certainly do.
Okay. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about our friends over at, say it, Luke, Gold Belly.
Gold Belly.
That's what I'm talking about, Luke. Luke, why don't you talk about it while I find this?
Well, Gold Belly, here's how it works. It's a fantastic company. Let's say you wanted some kind of delicacy, some kind of special deep dish pizza from Chicago, some kind of special kind of the thing that they make in Philly or anywhere in the country, but you're like, well, I don't live there. How do I get that delicious, iconic dish delivered to my house? BC, one thing you could try, for example, the Magnolia Bakery banana pudding. It's tremendous.
You know what that'd be good for? Mother's Day.
Mother's Day. So this is my point. You order from them and they send it to you, and it's like the most iconic American dishes. Who wouldn't want that?
And who doesn't like when they sprinkle on top and say they'll ship it anywhere across the country for free in time for Mother's Day? So it's sort of like an instant party, whether you're celebrating a Super Bowl party, a birthday party, Mother's Day, whatever it is. You get this delicious food, Luke, packaged perfectly, kept cold, with all the fixins right in your mailbox, right on your front doorstep. And it's very easy. And that's the thing for me. I'm not a good cook. It's very easy to cook, but it's top shelf taste. It's great stuff. It's Gold Belly.
Yeah, and again, these might be places that you've eaten that really mean a lot to you, or again, special dishes or things you've seen on the internet even and you wanted to try. And I'm glad you brought this up. When it's delivered to you, the care that goes into the packaging, the level of detail that goes in to make sure your experience is curated the right way cannot be overstated. When what they say they're going to do, BC, they do.
So whether your mom would love something sweet, whether she wants a taste of that deep dish pizza, a lot of options for you. So if you're looking to make Mother's Day perfect for your mom, and she is the most important, or want to impress your friends and family with an epic meal next time out, go to goldbelly.com, get free shipping, but also get 20% off your first order with our promo code. That's Kombat with a K, goldbelly.com, with the code Kombat with a K for free shipping and 20% off your next order. And by the way, this podcast is also sponsored by our friends at Total Wireless, the official wireless partner of the UFC. When you're streaming the fight or sharing those takedown highlights, you need a wireless provider that keeps you close to the action. And with Total Wireless, you're covered by the Verizon 5G network. So you don't have to worry about your connection being knocked out at the biggest moments when you're waiting for that big knockout. It's not something you can usually say about a wireless promoter. But Total Wireless is different. They really have your back. They are in your corner every second of the day, so you never miss a thing. They keep you covered for just $25 a month with 4 lines without sacrificing the essentials like speed. With Total, you get unlimited. You get that 5G data. You get so you can stay ahead of the action and keep up with every knockout. Total Wireless also understands you can't afford surprise blows any more than your favorite fighter can. So that's why the price is guaranteed for 5 years, taxes and fees included. The best fighters don't make it to the octagon alone. They've got that all-in support along the way, and it shouldn't be any different for you and your wireless partner. So visit TotalWireless.com or visit your local Total Wireless store to learn more about how Total Wireless can be in your corner. TotalWireless.com. And 5G access requires a 5G-capable device and a 5G service area. Monthly rate on the Total Base 5G Unlimited plan for new subscribers applies only to the monthly rate for your plan. Additional terms apply. See website for details. Thank you very much. Luke, back to our countdown of topics here. We slide gingerly here into number 4. Hey, big-time boxing card got announced by Mike Coppinger of The Ring, who certainly probably had great intel because Turki Al-Sheikh's Ring Magazine series, which will debut this weekend, by the way, with that Conor Ben Chris Eubank fight in London, and then also May 2nd on Friday in Times Square, we get that huge Ryan Garcia supercar with Devin Haney, so many other big names. But how about this? One night after Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano will fight on Netflix in New York's Madison Square Garden in their historic trilogy, Turki Al-Sheikh will have a show the following night, Saturday night, July 12th, exclusively on DAZN, although it has not been decided yet if it will be a pay-per-view or not. But it will be at, quote, an iconic location still to be determined, and the event will coincide with the launch of Turkey's new Inside the Ring TV show. Let's put up the card here and break down the matchups and get Luke's reaction to this. In that main event, Edgar Berlanga will take on Hamza Shiraz, who is moving up to 168 pounds and has a new trainer, Andy Lee, after that controversial draw with Carlos Adames. And Shakur Stevenson, after originally in recent weeks being on the outside and accusing Turkey of not paying up what he promised, he will get that fight against this WBC lightweight title mandatory William Zepeda. Then you have PBC's Alberto Puello, who will defend his title in the WBC at 140 against former champion Sabril Matias. That's a hell of a fight right there. And how about David Morrell Jr. of PBC fame? His first fight since the pay-per-view loss to David Benavidez in January. He will take on Imam Katayev, who is a 10-0 slugger from Russia. Luke, here's the deal. 3 fights into this Ring Magazine series, which is presumably, according to Turkey, paid for out of his private equity and not connected to Riyadh Season or TKO at the moment. What should the fan response be for what these Ring Magazine cards are providing in terms of matchmaking and value up to this point?
Seems to me that these are quite good. These are not main events with bullshit behind it. They are cards. They are real cards. As you indicated in the Conor Ben and Chris Eubank is a little thinner, relatively speaking.
Huge grudge match, also focused on the UK.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the first. They're kind of, rolling it up. But to the point you raised, the one in Times Square is 3 good fights that sets up potential for more, right? Because you have Haney and you have Ryan, and also you got kind of Rolly hanging out there. Well, Rolly and Ryan are in the same fight, but you have different winners and different permutations that it makes it possible. So it's not just like you're burning something and you get nothing out of it. And then you have this one, which is nothing but great fights. Now you could nitpick, Brian Campbell. You could nitpick. You could argue, should Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda be the main event?
I agree with you.
As it's the more important fight, but
it's
they might
title
be.
Fight, yeah.
Well, the thing is, why wouldn't they do that? Are they borrowing already the UFC model of the heavier fight goes up top?
No, I'll tell you what I think it is.
Okay, what do you think it is?
Shiraz is a big Turkey fighter. Do you remember Al-Sheikh controversially went in his corner in the Adames fight, gave the scoring or what he thought the scoring was in that position? That was a tough fight for him against Adames at 160 for the title because it showed his limitations. Now he's moving up to 68. He's got a new trainer in Andy Lee. There's a lot of expectations, and the inside sort of rumor is if he wins this fight against Berlanga, who is a star, you got to give him that, right? Whether you love him or hate him, he could be a next opponent for Canelo Alvarez, who, by the way, has 4 fights locked up with Turkey. The first we expect to be Terrence Crawford this fall to kick off the TKO. But what if it was Canelo against Shiraz next year?
Either way. But look,
a big part of this is we weren't sure what Turkey's next few cards after what this May 2nd one would be, given that he's announced the partnership with TKO. And now he's pulling back the PBC. He put out a picture with him and Louis DeCubas Jr. So he's working with more people, which is good to see, certainly. But the interesting development here is that Shakur Stevenson was on the outs, and then he put out this tweet, which seems to change the narrative. He said, excited about my next fight. It was a misunderstanding between Turkey and the team. My apologies on my part for overreacting.
Can I read the original tweet?
Let's work, Turkey. What's the original tweet?
The one he put out that probably caused the problems?
Yes.
He put out so De La Hoya basically said, Shakur's ducking. So Shakur quote tweets it and writes, is that what they told you? Talking to De La Hoya. Turkey promised me a number, and now he's going way back on that number that he promised me and sending his towel boys. We talked about this. Now, again, I think that meant like errand children. Okay. Sending his towel boys to run me the info instead of telling me straight up what he's trying to do. I don't bow down to nobody, Mr. De La Hoya. Now let's negotiate. That was the one that, I'm defiant. And all of a sudden, not defiant. I mean, here's what I think is happening.
Well, let me add the one wrinkle to this before you react.
Sure.
The big news associated with this is that Stevenson was promoted by Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Sport. There was an understanding that there was 1 to 2 fights left on the deal. According to Dan Rayfield, Fight Freaks Unite, and a few other outlets, they're now split. Eddie Hearn is no longer promoting Shakur. Shakur and manager James Prince has called Lou DiBella to be sort of a one-off promoter for this event, and then Shakur would be a free agent. Then you got people like Rick Glazer, who puts a lot of misinformation out there, did tweet out that Eddie Hearn is officially on the outs with Turkey, which is interesting. That adds to this whole thing with Shakur.
Yeah, it does. I mean, here's what I think. Well, it's not just with Shakur. It's like what Turkey is trying to do. Are these cards reasonably well matched? Is he pulling from a lot of different parts of the talent pool to make that? Are some of these other actors operating, it seems like, in good faith to make the best cards available? Sure. But let's just be honest about what's happening here. Turkey is probably trying to line up as much talent as he can with as much ease in the future to serve his business interests with TKO.
That's interesting.
I just don't see how this is anything but that. It's like, oh, he's signing these brand ambassador deals, the ones you raised with Abdullah Mason.
He did 5 of them last week, and the 3 biggest ones are the top ranks future stars.
That's right.
Abdullah Mason, Keyshawn Davis, Bruce Shushu Carrington.
Like, why would he do that?
All 3 are unbeaten. All 3 are, Keyshawn's a champion. The other 2 are on the verge of championship. I mean, he's building very strong relationships and keeping them.
Again, I don't know. This is not a declaration that if he does those things, it will lead to them signing over time. I don't think that that's necessarily a one-to-one relationship. But it seems to me that these cards, at least in the interim, listen, it's the same thing we've been saying about the Saudis the whole time. If I look at their cards, are we getting cards that are excellent? Are we getting good fights? Are we getting meaningful fights that fans want to see? There is simply no question that you are.
Yeah.
But it's all in service to a bigger, broader purpose. This idea that like everyone tweets him, or excuse me, everyone treating Turkey like he's this avuncular figure in your life who's just there to do good and has no ulterior motives. You can like or hate those ulterior motives, but to me, this is all in service of this grand vision that he has.
What do you make about Eddie Hearn in this case? Now, I don't know if that's confirmed, but it does seem to be confirmed that him and Shakur, I don't know if they cut ties or if they just ripped up the deal or whatever, but it does seem like Eddie's on Eddie, because Eddie was the strongest at the beginning when the TKO thing was announced, and I didn't agree with the timing and the way they did it. But Eddie, famously said, look, I'd love to keep working with Turkey, but I'm the best promoter in the world. I'm not dependent upon him. Is this the future of that? Is this that playing out right in front of us?
Let's see. Berlanga left him.
Yep.
Shakur left him. Who's the other one I'm not thinking of?
Bivol is with him, even though Hearn promotes him. But remember, Bivol was considering going to PBC and fighting Benavidez, but instead dropped the belt to stay with Turkey and do the trilogy. So that's interesting. I think Eddie Hearn's still his promoter, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it just seems to me like I don't know who is pulling the reins back from who, but these guys who are all like reading that there's writing on the wall about the future of TKO, I think are trying to feather a nest for themselves.
Yeah.
And some of that's going to lead to players going to different bases, so to speak, on the baseball diamond.
Interesting stuff. We'll see what goes on. They did have Terrence Crawford, by the way, at Wrestlemania, so he got his TKO close up.
Did he get a big pop?
He got a pretty good pop, and I think we're going to see him later this year against Canelo in that stadium. So that would be we're under the understanding that TKO is going to do what, 2 to 4 pay-per-views a year?
Yeah,
on
I think
Netflix?
they would probably want to do 1 a quarter.
Or not pay-per-views, but big events.
Think of like an all-star version of the Fox model, 4 big shows a year, 1 a quarter.
And then they'll probably start whatever their prospect league is going to look like.
That's right.
With maybe we'll see Callum Walsh and those likes on there. Let's go to topic number 5. Even though this story in theory is a little over a week old, there have been recent developments. We're talking about the rise and very sudden fall of the GFL. We joke and call it the Geriatric Football League, or the Geriatric Fight League, excuse me. But the Global Fighting League under Darren Owen made a lot of claims. They had a format we didn't necessarily agree with teams in different cities across the globe. They bungled a draft in which they exposed the fact that it wasn't actually a draft, and the backstory. But 1 week, Luke, after Darren Owen was forced to cancel the promotion's kickoff weekend of back-to-back events in LA when an investor pulled out of money at the last minute, it seems, the GFL founder continued to dig a hole in subsequent statements to the media, including a text message to uncrowned Ariel Helwani, that have only furthered the speculation that the GFL was potentially fraudulent from the beginning. And you have MMA managers speaking out. You've got fighter Alan Belcher straight up calling it a scam on Instagram. So, Luke, in your opinion, in light of these recent comments, I think Lloyd Pearson was one of those MMA managers who reached out to Ariel, and I saw a story on MMA Junkie that really kind of showed a lot of this, and we can get into that. But first and foremost, what really happened here? And is this promotion ever going to have an actual event, or was it ever expected that they would? Is this a Dogecoin scam that I didn't understand? What the hell is GFL really?
Dude, I can't believe... I can believe that we're here, that everything collapsed and it brought us to this position. I get that part. I can't believe that there's this much interest in something that is as obviously phony as them. I got to tell you, I certainly have sympathy for fighters who may have adjusted their preferences. I wanted to go with this promotion. Instead I signed with GFL because I was made a series of promises, and these promises to me indicated that it was a better choice for me and my family. If they get screwed, I certainly have a great deal of sympathy for them. I want to be very clear about that. Like, there are potentially victims here in that sense, and it deserves to be noted.
Oh, a lot of fighters turned down money with PFL, for example, to take what was going to be bigger checks with GFL.
But I would say if you're a manager, I don't know how much sympathy I really have for them, to be perfectly honest, in this particular case. Now, I'm glad that some of them have come forward to talk about some of the issues that they're having, but it's like, how could you ever advise your client that this was even remotely real? How could you do something so foolish?
They promised a lot of money, dude. They promised a lot of money that didn't seem realistic.
We should talk about that. Certain fighters and certain coaches were offered stipends, and some of that was delivered upon. I understand that. But even with that, how could you look at this place and the amount of money that they were offering to everybody else, these gigantic paydays? They had no broadcast deal. They had no real fully funding. They had no real dates. And again, I know they claimed that they had dates and they moved them, but for a long time, they had no real dates. They had this ham-handed...
They had Schaub.
Schaub was one of the best things about that thing. I mean, let's be honest about that. Brendan did a great job on that draft. They had this ham-handed draft. And again, a core concept, I'm trying to be as delicate as I can be, that simply cannot work. It's like, let's take the gamification, this sportsification of what PFL is doing only at a higher degree. We'll do it even more. That is a DOA fucking concept.
I have a theory, though, that cuts into that, but I want to show the facts first.
Okay, let's look at the facts, because there's a bunch more I want to say about this.
On April 9th is when we found out this was canceled, and then Darren Owen gave some text to Ariel Helwani to sort of explain it. Here was the original text that said, working on a solution. My main investor didn't fulfill his April obligation, which has caused a problem. I'll keep you posted, but I believe we'll be able to work through it. I think we can make it happen for June. Additionally, I don't foresee the event taking place in California, but we absolutely will keep pushing forward. I think we're going to have to push the dates to June 15th or 16th. I'll have to confirm ASAP. It's been a frustrating week, but I think there's a solution in place. Then we had Lloyd Pearson, the MMA manager, speaking to Uncrowned, going in length. And here's some from that story that MMA Junkie put out, that Aaron Bronstetter tweeted out. According to Pearson, according to this MMA Junkie story by Ben Folks, Owen attempted to address concerns about the GFL's financial stability by, quote, circulating copies and photos of the GFL bank account, showing that at one point they did have over $20 million in funding. Let's go to the next slide, please.
That's the only tweet we got.
Oh, you don't have the second half of that tweet?
I have it in front of me.
Okay, go ahead.
Quote, to do so, he transferred $20 million into our bank account to prove he had the funds, Owen wrote. He transferred the funds out of the account the same day. We had a monthly schedule of funds, typically in the $200,000 per month range. This is Owen talking about his main funder.
So Owen responded to the comments from Pearson.
Yes.
Keep going.
$200,000 per month range that he had been funding without issue until April. Whether it was the market crash or him getting cold feet, he did not fulfill his April obligation and subsequently halted our progress.
So originally Pearson, who had a bunch of his fighters that were assigned to GFL and a bunch of them, turned down opportunities, he gave this quote to Uncrowned. At its inception, GFL came on the MMA scene seeking attention by promising fighters large sums of money. Many relied on these promises, and when GFL failed to deliver, now the fighters have been financially harmed and forced to participate in prolonged fight camps for bouts that will now not occur. He would go on to essentially accuse Owen of reaching out to fighters and almost kind of pitching to them an opportunity to still fight, but for free, I guess, in hopes of attracting
rev share,
in hopes of attracting the right investments. And the final quote there from Pearson was, GFL and Owen began recruiting top-level fighters during the first months of 2024, offering large financial purses and guaranteeing the ability to fight 3 times during 25. Relying on these promises, blah, 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 have left so many fighters to financially hurting themselves. We can say, what did you expect, blah, blah, blah. But my theory that cuts into this is, I don't think it was a scam that was never anticipated to succeed. But I felt like when that shitty draft happened and they kind of showed their hand and admitted afterwards, oh yeah, it wasn't really a draft. We kind of just assigned based on where the fighters live and made the teams. We all had the same opinion of why the hell are you doing a team format in 2025? You have no chance to make it work. I think they never had the investors. They maybe had some talking with people, and they hoped that by using the draft as a commercial, having Luke Rockhold on there in an AI supermodel or superhero costume, having interviews with Tyron Woodley and all these former UFC names, that then all the people willing to waste money in MMA would call up and say, yeah, man, now I'm in. I want to own that New York team. That seems to me the only way they thought this was going to work. And it does feel sort of halfway maybe not fraudulent, but gross. If that's the case, that they would roll out in this attempt and make all the fighters do that. Could it be as simple as what Owen is saying, that the money was guaranteed and that wasn't there? Like, what do you actually feel deep inside? Be real.
First
with
of
the
all,
people.
20. Let me just say this: I would love to have 20 million. 20 million to run the fight promotion is nothing. That is nothing. You cannot do shit with 20 million. You can be a very, very small league, and that will save you. But to do what they wanted to do, 20 million would get burned almost instantly. That is not a lot of money at all in terms of the people that they were signing for the amounts they were trying to sign them for. Brian Campbell, 20 million is a drop in the fucking bucket.
Yes.
It means absolutely fuck all. Moreover, if you have a budget of 200K, you definitely don't have anything going on. Again, for the names that you wanted to sign. You can do a much smaller promotion with a much smaller ambition, and that will last you a good long while, but that's not what they were doing. This is the point. Guys, if you want to see a regional promotion that can do well, look at what LFA does. They actually started as two different promotions that merged, but they started very, very small and slowly built over time.
Is that the model that XFC, who you're working with, that's the kind of same thing?
They are very cost conscious for that reason, and they want to build slowly over time. Going the other way, where we want to go as fast as possible with like these exorbitant price tags on everything, with a concept that if you've been watching MMA for at least a moderate amount of time, cannot work at all. This had red flags from the moment I learned about it. Them being like, oh, down the line, it turned out their promises were bullshit. How was this not the most predictable fucking outcome that could have possibly befallen us? I cannot believe these managers sitting here being like, we had no idea it would go this way.
Some fighters left the UFC money on the table to come here.
How could you not know it was going to end in blood?
Yeah.
How could you might have been able to get one paycheck, maybe two at most. You had to know this ended in blood. You had to know. We knew.
We wanted it to
said
end
it was going to end in blood.
Dennis Ferguson blood. That's the blood we thought.
And
would
I want to
end
go a
it.
little bit further. You mentioned this just to clarify what they were talking about. By the way, according to Alan Belcher, after the initial GFL event cancellation, Oward offered him some, quote, rev share and stuff that I would fight for, not a guaranteed purse. With the apparent lack of funding for the GFL, Darren is asking fighters to compete for free. And again, it's a rev share. Pearson wrote, he has circulated a document showing a rev share model for the fighters, a complete deviation from their contracted amounts. According to some fighters, the GFL is projecting to make almost $4 million from this event at the low end. Holy fuck. If they only lost $4 million, I would be shocked. To say that they have a rev share model where they're going to make at least $4, I mean, after all the gate and the television and all the everything, you're going to make $4 million? You're out of your fucking mind to think something so obviously fucking idiotic. Here is the biggest problem that we're really not talking about, and it was central to the PFL conversation as well. There just aren't enough opportunities for fighters.
Is that because of the Monsopsony?
I know people get sick of this conversation, BC. I know that we sound like a broken record. But eventually, GFL is going to be completely gone. One might stay around as like a kickboxing organization that does MMA on occasion. PFL does not have a long future. What are we going to say then to the middle class of fighters? Bellator's Bellator's yearly outlay of fighter pay, like all the fighter pay they had to do in a year, top to bottom, was $40 million. That just got taken away from the market and didn't get put back in. And trying to go to this fucking route is like so obviously nonsensical. But if you've got really constrained options, maybe you're desperate enough to just want to believe this stuff.
You said, what are we going to say to them? We're going to say 12-12, Hunter Campbell on line one. That's what we're going to say to them, right?
That's it. But I mean, if you've been watching MMA for any amount of time, how can you say with a straight face you couldn't see this coming? Jesus Christ, I could see this coming. We talked about seeing this coming. It cannot work.
I just feel like they used that. They were hoping that draft was a Hail Mary, that all these people were going to come
and they're going to get an infusion,
arrive, and they were going to get the money that they need to start one card at a time. It feels like the tail end of 80s wrestling when Vince McMahon went worldwide and suddenly like the AWA and all these people are dying a slow death. It feels like the tail end of that, only this is day one for them.
Yeah, they just never got out of.
I mean, you're right. It is the industry crushing them, but it also was just poor. It's just, was it fraud or was it just
I don't think
bullshit,
no. I think
planning?
This guy just believes his own nonsense.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is, if you see somebody trying to spend a fuck ton of money up front for faded names, like, and we're talking like a huge list of names which would have had a huge list of costs.
Like if Turkey only did old guy fights,
Yes.
that was it. Yeah.
Again, under the weirdest nonsensical city system, the fucking spidey tingles on the back of your neck should have gone up right away that this can't work.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. It's literally, BC, it's the exact opposite of everything we know that works.
At least we'll have those GFL draft memes for the rest of our lives in the video game costumes. That was very interesting.
The AI fucking video? But
That's the thing we're going to remember, right? Or the fact that the day after the draft, we're like, yeah, sorry, we accidentally leaked the results after the first pick. It was never.
Oh my God, I forgot about that too. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel bad for fighters who were counting on a paycheck. I will always say that. I really am.
And people, producers, cameramen. I mean,
yeah, everybody who was counting on one, I feel bad for. Not the managers, but I feel bad for everybody else. But I just don't understand how people can be like, how did this happen? You fucking know how this happens.
I don't know if anyone's actually saying that. Those are our 5 topics. Thank you for playing. Now is the chance, though, that we give you the chance to say, you have your say, right? Ask us a question every Sunday night at Morning Combat on IG on the old X. We put out the call to you. We call this one DMs from Donks. I mean, it's a disgusting sound.
I am told that they're making new imaging. For this.
And new sounds too?
Yeah, I'm told.
Long Island, look, who will voice the ejaculation on the new one?
It's actually Gaff, just saying.
Let's say it's got to be your dad. I mean, that's really.
All right, hey, here's our first question from our fans. What do you got to say? Let's see if they bring it. From Conman88, and that's Con with a K. Who would enjoy their night the least? BC at Cannibal Corpse or LT at a Burnt Chrysler show, shirtless? You have to be shirtless with Burt at that show.
I actually, the answer would be who would enjoy their night the least. It would actually be BC, because if I had to go to a Burt Kreischer show, I would just probably blow my brains out.
Dude,
if I'm
Mikey
being honest.
loves Burt Kreischer. You have to respect his favorite song, his favorite movie of all time is Armageddon, and he loves Burt Kreischer. Everyone has everyone's got their things.
Yeah, everyone's got the Armageddon. I wouldn't call it my favorite movie, but I'm not going to hate on that. I mean, that's a fun.
We love Mikey. We'll let him have that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Listen, it's a big action summer thriller. I remember when Armageddon came out.
Okay.
But Burnt Chrysler, I would just rather be dead. I'm being honest.
I don't
would just rather be dead.
Dude, I couldn't. Going to a Cannibal Corpse show, that'd be rough.
You know what I bought recently? I didn't know about these. Well, I'd heard of them, but I never really looked into them. I bought the earplugs, but the kind, like if you buy like sleep earplugs, they just muffle sound.
Yeah.
I got these new earplugs that just take the decibel level and just lower it so that it sounds basically the same, but you can still hear the music. I got those because I'm going to see Cannibal Corpse on Wednesday, bitch.
Of this week?
Yeah.
What venue?
The MGM in DC at the Oxon Hill MGM facility.
Shout out. Wow. Are you going to have any chance to meet the band? Like maybe George Corpse Grinder?
That is, that's the plan. That's the plan for afterwards.
Do you know somebody in the band? I forgot what you're
I do, yeah. Eric Rutan, who's the guitarist.
The guitarist. So he's not the guitarist that had all the child images, right?
No, I don't know if he had child images. He had human skulls in his
okay. Yes. Yeah. I think it starts with, you know, there's people in this world that have like glass cases of snakes all over their house.
Yeah,
I think that's where it leads to the skulls.
Yeah. If you have snakes in your house, the next step is dead bodies.
No, I hope you enjoy that, and I hope you do get to meet the band. These privileges that we get in life, they are absolutely.
Yeah, Eric Rutan,
amazing.
big boxing fan.
There we go. Let's see the next one from our great fans here. At Jordan Peterson. Wow. Peterson with Holloway.
Does he cry as much as Jordan Peterson?
No, I don't think so. With Max Holloway intending to move back up to lightweight permanently, who should Max be matched up with next? A fight with Hooker would be dynamite. Well, look, we feel like it's going to be Poirier 3, so that's a great fight.
Max has options.
Oliveira rematch?
You could do that.
I mean, I would not be against Hooker. That'd be
What would you say about Oliveira versus Saryukian? Sorry, what am I saying? Holloway versus Saryukian.
I never even thought of that one. That's interesting.
That's what I mean. A lot of fresh and interesting matchups.
And that could give him a title shot earned.
Yeah.
Title shot earned.
But I think if you're Max and, you remember he lost the first two and then the third to Volk. He's lost the first two to Dustin.
Yes.
He's going to want to get this one back. He's going to be the champion going in.
Conor McGregor is seriously effing the UFC because even if he's in shitty shape and is automatically going to lose to whoever he fights, he should have still given them 2 to 3 pay-per-views over the last couple of years.
Bro, he's going to be 37 in July.
I know, and one of them would have been Max, and I feel like that would have been a great rematch. It would have sold. It would have been interesting, but we'll never.
Max beating Justin Gaethje is pretty fucking redemptive.
That was great. I mean, but I'm saying, like, think of in all the arguments we're making about star power and what fight is going to save this pay-per-view, just old ass Conor showing up would save a lot of it. They can't even get that. They can't even get that.
That's true.
Next question from the people. This one's from HMZNAQ. Which current UFC fighter do you think is the most underrated by both fans and the promotion, and why? Does it have to be both? I mean, there's some you can say that are underrated by the fans that aren't underrated by the promotion. I mean, Movsar Evloev is super underrated, but you get why, right?
Mm-hmm. You could say even Ian Gary.
I was just going to say Ian Gary, but I wouldn't say that the promotion underrates him.
No,
The
promotion
fans
doesn't. Yeah, the fans still do.
Aljo?
Yes. Aljo's
Like Aljo doesn't get the
Aljo's
credit
always
he
underrated
deserves.
as shit.
Yeah, that's probably fair. That's probably fair.
Like he gets critical recognition, but maybe it's how they treated him when he was on top.
Also, he dropped in the rankings recently with some of the movement that happened after 314. I don't think he was very happy with that. So yeah, Aljo's a good one, certainly. There's some other ones too, but yeah.
I'm trying to think of one that just fits this perfectly. Like, who is everyone
kind of like sleeping on?
Yeah, I wish I could say Brian Ortega, but it's just not true.
You know what? Pantoja. I mean,
that's a great
The
point.
hardcore fans love him, but like, he's way fucking better than he gets credit for.
I think Umar
so
is going to
good.
be just fine and is going to be one of the greats.
Umar has a bright future.
Yeah.
Listen, Merab is going to be champion for at least for a little while longer, I think. But
I mean, DDP is finally getting the recognition and respect, even though he's unorthodox and lumbering and messy, but it works. It freaking works. So there you go right there. I think we got another one from these people. Let's see what they say. From a man and his cat, I can support that lifestyle. Who's a bucket list RSD guest you would love to have? Max Kellerman, we both said, would be fantastic. Schwarzenegger. Dog the Bounty Hunter. Except for the N-word. Dog the Bounty Hunter. Except for the N-word debacle.
Is he alive?
Yes, you're damn right he's alive.
Are you sure?
Yes, I know.
Oh,
for
his
real.
wife died.
Yes, Beth. Yeah.
R.I.P.
No, for real. In the sport, I mean, Max Kellerman would be very interesting. We'd both love that. On the boxing side.
I would love to. When is he coming back?
I don't know. I wonder if it's TKO. That's what I wonder. Imagine him on Netflix. It'd be kind of badass, right?
Good for him.
I mean, Lampley's coming back on this Ryan Garcia card. We'll see if that's for better or worse, right? I mean, I support Jim. I want him to get his shot.
We'll see how that goes. Yeah. But for me, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay,
sure.
If we had RSD back, and it's not out of the question, we're building sponsorship relationships. We're coming back, right? We're on the comeback trail, MK. But we still need that studio with that couch. I got to add a few names because that's what they're asking. Rolly Romero.
No.
Ryan Garcia.
No, fuck no.
Well, I get why, but that's Teofimo.
Dude, Ryan Garcia is interesting to watch. He's not interesting to talk to.
All right, I just named everybody from
Have
that
you
card
heard him
that's coming
talk?
up. Yeah, I think he's interesting to talk to because he's so. I think it is, but I get.
Yeah, we have very different
All right,
conceptions of
who else in the combat space would be like a dream? Maybe they came on of late, or maybe it's somebody that we wouldn't have access to. But like,
I would honestly, if they sparred with us, Don Davis. I'm telling you,
Dana White, Hunter Campbell. I mean, you'd love any of those type of things.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain legends. Remember when we sat down with GSP briefly before the Anderson Silva Jake Paul fight we had for Showtime on the weigh-in show?
Yep.
I'd love to get GSP in that format, wouldn't you? Because even though he's always in our face on social media, I feel like he's under
Craig Jones.
True, but isn't GSP to some underexposed to some degree? Even though he's always in your face. It's not in a long-term sit-down deep sense.
I'll just say this. You know that there's been generational turnover in the fans when they start killing old legends. So, for example, there's a lot of Aldo hate just from donks who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And I see some of that with St. Pierre, too.
People think I have Aldo hate. That's unnecessary, and I need to put him in the upper room table and just shut up and be a man about it.
Yeah. Well, just wait. All you think Islam Makhachev is going to be universally revered? Wait 5 years. You're going to get a bunch of fans being like, cook that fraud, you know?
Yeah.
Dumbasses.
Who's the guy that knocked out Islam? I even forgot his name.
The Brazilian dog.
Adriano
Martins.
Yeah, there you go. There you go with that. Do we have another one from the people? From Von
Beckel.
Cal. Did you guys do anything fun for Easter? So, Luke, I didn't arrive home on my flight from the West Coast until after midnight Saturday night. So this was the most low-key Easter we ever had. I did the rundown for this show. I put together my shit. I took a nap. That's about it for Easter for me on this sacred holiday.
I mean, we flew home yesterday, and my daughter was very, very cranky because her sleep was interrupted to make the flight.
Yes.
And then we went home, and
nobody puts Tukey in the corner.
Yeah, I took her out for milkshakes afterwards.
Oh, what a dad!
Yeah, I took her for milkshakes. She loved it. She loved it. So that was great. But we didn't do anything super crazy. We were also tired, you know. It was because we traveled with we brought her we brought the grandma with us, and You know, it was just a lot.
That's what we're calling her now, the grandma.
Abuela, you know.
Abuela, come on, you know.
We brought Abuela. So she was great.
Does Abuela date, or is this conversation over?
Nah, she doesn't, dude. She's
all right. I think maybe the conversation's over. It's possible.
I'm not saying it wouldn't happen, but like, nah.
All right. Thank you for that insight to your life. Those were the DMs from Donks. You can join us again on Sunday night. And don't forget, for this Friday's episode, for all episodes, or just to reach out to the show, morningcombat@gmail.com is the email address. The great Mikey Mo Miles is on the end of that, but please do not show him a picture of your package. Your dead wrongs, your fan subs, they won't get read. Come original this Friday. Bring it. Let's bring it for good fan sub moments. We close with really the best segment in all of Combat Tours, maybe outside of High Court. I rewatched High Court, the John Jones edition. Maybe our finest piece of art we ever put out there.
We never, and dude, that could have been so much better too. We could have that was like a prototype. We could have done a million of those.
Yeah, that
true story. Something. That was my first time working with you guys.
No way!
Oh my God!
High Court, yeah.
Which episode? The
John Jones.
The John Jones.
Did you think we were the dumbest people alive?
I mean, I knew who you guys were before, but I was like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Luke, how high were you for High Court?
Zooted, brother.
Yeah. There was a zoot suit riot going on, all right?
Throw back a bottle of beer.
There you go. Our final segment is what I do every Sunday. I go through all the DMs you guys hit me up on IG with ridiculous videos meant to make Luke Thomas emote. This one's called Have You Seen This Shit? Luke, we're less than 2 weeks removed from the return of my favorite fighter, Rolando Romero, that comedic, dry humor genius. So let's celebrate the holiday weekend with a look back the last time we saw and heard from Rolly.
Happy Easter, everybody. I want to tell everybody Happy Easter, and thank you for supporting me and following me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rolly. That was actually 2 fights ago when Pitbull sent him to hell a year ago. But happy Easter to everyone from Rolly. Speaking of Rolly, Luke, here is how he trains for cardio as he prepares for Ryan Garcia.
You train for cardio. Fuck 3 times a day. I fuck 3 times a day.
Can I just say, it's not even like I believe that. That's like, dude, fucking 3 times a day. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
I mean, Will Chamberlain was active. You know, the guy was active.
I mean, he's a pro athlete. I mean, these are pro athletes. You know, these are pro athletes. But to me, it's like, you got to, dude, that sounds like a death sentence. I got to go fuck 3 times in a day.
Didn't Will average 1.5 women per day? For
for the math to work?
To get the 20K to work?
I don't, dude, that's just, I would just, I mean, I'm not advocating being an incel. That's even worse. But like, you know, 3 times in a day, that's a little overkill.
It's great work if you can get it, though. Okay. Rolly can also make it rain on the heavy bag, quite literally.
Welcome to the weather forecast. What's the weather like there, Rolly? Rain? Yeah, rain? I think so. One more time, just double checking. Definitely rain. Okay, thanks, Rolly. Much appreciated.
Luke, are you giving my guy any chance against Rye Guy, who looks spectacular in those videos with Derek James, like those quick hooks he's showing and the footwork?
I'll say this. It seems to me like Garcia is significantly more sober this time around, and I actually don't think that'll make him worse.
I can't believe that's part of the analysis, by the way.
I mean, dude, a year ago was that fight. Yeah, like what was the fight? Like a year ago yesterday.
Yeah.
A year ago yesterday. He was out of his fucking mind. Remember he was in the club on the shirtless. I thought he was, again, all-time fucking really blow up in my face quote. He was, you know the story.
Tune him like a guitar.
Tune like a guitar.
Man.
Yeah, that one didn't work
Luke,
out too well.
Speaking of disturbing moments, I don't put this out to laugh, but this was that BJ Penn video that's getting a lot of attention. We'll just quickly look at it.
This is fucking scary.
Is he? Tell me if because he put Brendan Schaub on the same, and put Brandon Schaub.
I know Schaub in the comments thought it was a joke. He didn't know,
and he put it with Aaron Hernandez, and of course it's going to light up the Reddits, and everybody had fun on the internet. But you think BJ is literally saying that Aaron Hernandez is not dead? He's just been repackaged as Brandon Schaub.
That's right. Dude, BJ, I know this is like a fun segment, but
yeah.
BJ Penn.
I really brought down the mood.
Yeah, he's in trouble.
Good Lord.
Mentally.
All right, we got to cleanse the palate. All right, let's.
I don't want to say any more about it because it's just a bummer, but he's in trouble.
Let's watch this to cleanse the palate, okay?
The nurses saw at my birth. Okay.
I mean, he's not wrong, Luke. Okay,
he looks like Johnny Walker.
All right. Let's check in on the Mexican restaurant, the old Cantina, Luke. And I had a lot of this food in San Diego. It was great.
Lo mejor nunca.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Luke, he's just putting the sauce. You got to love the sauce, right? Just.
Dude, he's got a bottle in front of him.
Yeah, he gets after it. Okay, he's done. Hey, time for your boxing KO of the week. I believe we ran this before, but it's so good. Oh my god! Like 18 people sent this.
I gotta
to me
tell
the
you,
other day.
white on white violence here. I'm all about it.
Yeah. What kind
Bang,
of? Dude, this
bitch.
can't be a real fight. Is this one of those?
Rough and rowdy joints or
Yeah.
whatever the fuck. I hope. Look at this. Turns around, just fucking boom,
Oh, God.
bitch.
Take that, Rey Mysterio. Wow. Okay, Luke, this is cruel and unnecessary, but it's also funny. Let's watch.
Give me that microphone. Conor McGregor! I know you died of an overdose a year ago and are probably in hell. But that's nothing compared to the hell I'm gonna drag you through when you share this octagon with me. By the way, my kids are black.
That was Chandler after losing on the prelims in 2027. Oh gosh, Luke it's time for an unfortunate flashback headline. Let's go to the 80s. This is a real one from Rolling Stone magazine. Look at the headline on the right, Luke.
Those summer nights, how magic stays positive. Yeah, I bet he does. Plus, OJ takes a stab at. No, that can't be real. OJ takes a stab at family life? No.
I think it's all fake, but it's hilarious.
Okay, I was about to say, holy shit, they really, there you go. That's prescient.
Let's head to the restroom, Luke. You sent me this. This is actually Newark Penn Station's bathroom.
I want everyone to know this is tame. Oh, yeah, was there a murder in there? We don't know. Can't go look. Hey, look at this homeless guy just occupying. Oh, there's look at just doing drugs over
Dude,
here.
I change trains in New Haven, and I go to that restroom every time, and it's rough in that one,
Dude,
but it ain't Newark Penn rough,
That's
dude.
nothing. That's the tamest I've ever seen it. I had 100 people send me that video, and I tried to tell them all. A, was I lying? Absolutely not. B, I have seen it so much worse than that.
Dude, remember that time I went there and I'm like, Luke is talking shit. It's not going to be that bad. It's actually probably nice and historic.
Yep.
Dude,
Nope.
I got accosted by like 4 people upon walking through the door.
You can't, if you stand in line at the Dunkin' Donuts or the Mickey D's at that place, the homeless come right up to you.
Oh, dude, they mess with the people that work there.
Yep.
They start like it was wild.
It's fucking insane.
Wow. All right. Speaking of the restroom, Luke, I don't advise this, but what are your thoughts?
Dude, what is wrong with the whites? Dude, show that one again. Show that one again. Show that one again. Dude, look.
Dude, what would you wash his mouth out with carbonic acid in this
I'd
case?
wash it out with a shotgun.
No,
That's what I'd
okay,
wash it
no,
out
no,
with.
we don't advise. Wow, that is not necessary.
I'm teasing. It's a joke. I don't mean it for real.
Speaking of fatalities, it's time for your fatalities of the week. Let's go to the bike ramp. Oh, wow. Dude, that was like Ngannou versus Overeem level KO right there. Wow. Let's see an old guy on a bicycle. What do we got here?
Not what I was expecting.
See if he popped that motherfucker. Pop that
What, big-ass
motherfucker up over the
tricycle?
cone and.
Oh!
Okay.
Yeah. Little elder abuse with
I
you
gotta
right
tell you, I
there.
saw a bunch of those bikes in New Orleans. I kind of want one.
Oh, wow. Well, look, you
Kinda
were a
want
great
one.
father in New Orleans, and this guy had the same intentions, just like R.I.P. Kobe Bryant before the helicopter, Luke, but
Yeah, I
it
tried
didn't
to save
go
the
right.
day. Oh, is he gonna sprain his ankle? Yup. Yup.
Oh, God. That is, wow.
It's like, not only did your kid get concussed, you now tore your ACL, you fat bastard.
Bonus, we have a scorpion of the week. People like these videos.
Yep.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, the whites.
Dude, I don't think you can walk after that, right?
Seems so unlike them.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Luke, old people say the darndest things, right? Let's hear Grandpa at the wedding.
Hey.
Here we go.
All of this happened because I got laid.
Yeah!
You know what? Truth in advertising.
I mean, that's what Nocita should just embrace, right?
Yep.
Embrace his dad's Australian nutbag. It's
That's
the
right.
reason why he's here,
That's
okay?
right. Does his dad even know we talk about his ball bag?
I
on
don't
this
know.
show?
I'd love to get him on the show just to talk Aussie
Definitely
shit.
does not know the extent that he's
Oh, Luke, watch this grandma keeping it 100.
Is that a cigarette?
Yeah, that's how she's lighting her.
You know what? God bless her.
I mean, if she's still smoking, she made it to triple digits. Keep smoking, right?
Why would you stop?
Smoke them if you got them. Luke, Batman was spotted in L.A. Watch this.
Is that a person? It looks like a person up there. Zoom in, zoom in. Oh my! It's Batman!
Something's in my ass.
Signal me for anal?
Hey, let's go to the schoolyard. Great fights happen outside of cafeterias.
All right, they're squaring up here. Let's see what happens. Everyone dressed in black. What the fuck?
Oh, got him, right? Dude, that kid's never going to live that down. He's going to be garbage pail
But
kid
that's
for
not
the
his
rest of his
fault.
life. No, but he got KO'd by it. Look
He
at
did
that.
get KO'd.
And it had gross stuff in it. Look at that liquid that came out.
Yeah, dude, the garbage can juice.
Oh, God. I remember when Nick Klaber hit a freshman in the ear with a donut from like halfway across the room. I'm like, that kid's donut ear for the rest of his life, right?
Yeah, that's true.
There you go, right? Okay, Luke, it's time for your dunks of the week. Let's watch the principal.
My high school principal went for a dunk, and this happened. Ouch.
That's a KO1 head first down. Oh, let's go to Walmart for the next dunk. What? I can get behind this type of
Okay,
this type of-
here's the thing. I'm not going to say that wasn't funny. It was funny. Y'all, don't be fucking with the Walmart staff.
Yeah, I know.
They
I
got
know.
jobs. They let them be.
Yeah.
Let them be. Although that was funny.
We need them, Luke. We need them.
We absolutely fucking need them.
Smoke them if you got them time, Luke. You've ever heard of a glizzy bowl? This combines everything we love.
If you use this, you deserve to be sent to a prison camp in El Salvador. I'm just going to point that out.
Long Island, Luke, you down with the pork bong or no?
I mean, it's better than the soda can bong. So.
I guess it could be a beef bong, too. Yeah, there you go.
Or the toilet handle bong.
Let's
Ooh.
continue on. Do you ever hear of a frisbee bong?
What the fuck is that?
You can throw it to your friends.
Oh, you know what?
Pass the Ducci to the left side
I
of the
actually
street.
support this now.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you got to have good hands, though, right?
New York City
It
degenerates.
was raw branded too, so they probably sell that shit.
Oh, you're right. They make wraps and stuff, right?
Yeah, they're a paper company.
We should play Ultimate Frisbee with that.
Or we can just smoke a bong. I mean,
Luke, let's bring together two celebrities and have them play Touch Butt in the Park. This time, Merab Davashvili and Gable Stevenson. Your thoughts?
Gable seems unimpressed.
Do you think Gable will work as an MMA fighter?
I mean, he's certainly got all the things you would need.
You better work. Work it,
Yeah, they're
babe.
just, they're just kind of hand fighting here a little
Do
bit.
your thing. Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing else to say about this. They're just kind of.
They
They're kind of
don't smooch at the end?
Yeah, no. I'm like, there's no pay. Just like the viewers hoping that one day Luke will bang.
Yeah,
there will
they
not
want
be a
us to
payoff.
smooch. It's not going to happen.
This is not Tony and Angela. Okay, please. All right. Luke, Planet Fitness time. You sent me this, in fact. A Luke Thomas original.
Planet Fitness? Yeah, I'm Planet Fitness penis in my mouth, or in your mouth. I'm Planet Fitness these nuts on your head.
That was me asking John Jones a question.
Yes.
Press conference.
Let's go to it's playoff time in the NBA. Let's hear from Winhurst.
Is obviously Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves can fit together beautifully and be a competitive group, and they can share each other's load and also so they can fit together.
Luke, hashtag load watch. That's what real friends do, all right?
Fire that clown.
Yeah.
Today.
That's LeBron's caddy, okay?
Apparently LeBron doesn't like him.
No, LeBron don't like that guy. No, he thinks they're best. Brian thinks they're best friends. Luke, finally, do you believe in proper etiquette when walking your dog? Like, there's some people that
I definitely
violate
believe
that.
in proper leash etiquette.
Is this
and
too-
leash laws? By the
Okay,
way.
is this too far in your eyes?
Oh, do you mind if our dogs say hi? Oh, yeah, sure. Awesome. Oh, they like each other. Oh, they're friends. Oh, cute.
Execute both of those disgusting creatures.
Does that turn you on at all?
I hate them both.
Okay, that's the shit of the week. I hope you saw it. Wow, I think we gave it to him for 2 hours
Listen,
today.
we didn't
all
have
right?
much to work with.
No.
We had to turn, in the words of Brock Lesnar, we had to turn chicken shit into chicken salad.
Just like our sexual history's not much to work with, but we
I did all right. I didn't do great. I did all right.
All right. I just hit the volume button way too loud. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. That's the show for the week. You can email the show at morningcombat@gmail.com. We told you about that. Also, here are our social accounts if you want to follow the show or follow us, including on our personal YouTube channels where the parties only continue each week. Also, check out the Main Card Minute with one Luke Nocita, our fantastic director, producer, bong enthusiast. Long Island Luke, can we expect content on your YouTube channel this week?
Yeah, I'll have the bet breakdown for Kansas City today, longer one tomorrow, and I'll be doing the watch
Dude,
along.
it's Ian Gary Fight Week. Come on, let's go.
Time to prove the haters wrong.
Main event's going to be great.
Damn right.
Card's going to be pretty good.
Are you into Eubank versus Ben as well?
Yeah, I am. It's going to be a fun build. It has been, and I think this week will be kind of cool.
All right, for all of our great people that work back there, including Ken and Nadir, shout out to those gentlemen, okay?
There they are.
And Daniel Snyder's nephew, shout out to him as well.
That's right.
It's been a great show. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. We will be back Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, a remote episode that will get you fired up for the fights this weekend. Don't miss it. Take care. Be I don't know.
Be good to each other.
Yeah, be good to each other, right? Be excellent to each other. We are out of here.